A powerful force hurled Jaehyun backward. Fresh blood splattered, staining his white hair crimson and scattering across his wounded body. As his consciousness faded, a bitterly sarcastic smile bloomed on Jaehyun's blood-smeared lips. He rasped in his last breath, a vow etched into his very being by pain and betrayal. If I ever trust anyone again in this life, then I'll be a dog. Though his body was at its limit, his eyes burned with a terrifying light, reflecting hatred and a chilling resolve newly forged in hell.
A cold blue light flickered in Sirre's eyes, hidden behind her slender fingers. Her voice rang out, decisive and ruthless, an order that could not be refused. Kill him. Upon receiving the order, the masked warrior roared savagely. His muscles rippled as he swung his massive stone axe high. Incredible power channeled into the blow, aimed directly at the man pinned on the ground. The axe blade tore through the air, carrying the force to crush anything in its path. The warrior gritted his teeth, putting all his body weight into driving the weapon down, determined to finish his opponent in a single strike. But just as the axe blade was about to strike, a figure suddenly lunged forward like a bolt of lightning. A hand appeared, seizing the warrior's wrist, halting the fatal blow. A gruesome crack echoed as the terrifying force of the blow was completely restrained by an unimaginable resistance. The entire body of the white-haired man who had just appeared was enveloped in an aura of mystical blue light. He effortlessly blocked the descending blow, while the warrior could only stand dumbfounded, astonished by the sudden intervention and the stranger's extraordinary power.
The armored warriors suddenly cheered in delight as they recognized the familiar figure. The bearded leader enthusiastically yelled, "Jaehyun!" However, their joy was cut short when a blue-armored soldier shouted, "It's Hyrkan! Capture him! If we all charge together!" In response to that reckless call to arms, Jaehyun remained motionless, his hood obscuring half of his face. A brilliant blue aura blazed around his body. His eyes flashed with a cold light, unwavering. He didn't flinch as the bloodthirsty crowd charged towards him. In the blink of an eye, Jaehyun vanished from his original position. He plunged into the enemy formation like a storm, the sword in his hand drawing cruel and lightning-fast slashes. A streak of blue flashed past, leaving behind bodies collapsing onto the leaf-strewn ground. When the whirlwind subsided, Jaehyun stood tall amidst the chaotic battlefield. He glanced at the defeated enemies at his feet, his voice cold and mocking echoing in the silent space. Did you really think charging together would make a difference?
Amidst the floating dust motes, Hyrkan lifted his head, a proud smile gracing his blood-streaked face. He coldly declared, "You can't defeat me." However, his teammates hung their heads, remorse etched on their faces. One of them, seemingly the leader, looked up at Hyrkan with guilty eyes, stammering, I'm sorry, Jaehyun. It's all our fault. We didn't expect those bastards to ambush us here." The smugness on Hyrkan's face vanished. He frowned slightly, his hand tightening on the hilt of the sword behind him. He spoke, his voice somewhat annoyed. "No, what are you apologizing for?" Without hesitation, he reached out to the teammate kneeling on the ground. A soft green light emanated from his palm, enveloping the space before him. The man looked up in astonishment, meeting Hyrkan's determined gaze. "I'm fine. Get up."
"Jaehyun! Jaehyun!" The man in golden armor's voice trembled, desperately pleading. Actually, it wasn't our fault, right? In Hyrkan's mind, the venomous words of the past echoed like sharp knives. Blame that pathetic loser who always lags behind because she lacks skill. Isn't that right, you idiot? Rage flared in his blue eyes. Hyrkan gritted his teeth, his fiery gaze meeting Sirre's self-satisfied smirk. Seated majestically on her throne, she spoke in a cold, sarcastic tone. "What a touching friendship! Why are you all being so sentimental? Even when garbage gathers together, it's still just garbage." The sound of resolute footsteps echoed. Sirre and her entourage advanced coldly.
Amidst the dreamlike green space, Sirre stood with proud confidence, her long black hair gently swaying in the wind. Her piercing blue eyes stared straight ahead, a faint yet condescending smile gracing her lips. Facing her, Hyrkan merely scoffed. Huh, who's the one who always grinds their teeth and charges in every time they're defeated by trash over and over again? His tone was full of mockery, a sharp smile etched on his angular face. The smile on Sir's lips instantly froze, replaced by a stunned expression mixed with rising fury. Her eyes flashed, and she warned through gritted teeth, "Watch your mouth. Don't come crying and regret later." Regret? Hyrkan repeated her words, his face showing amusement as if he had just heard a very funny joke. Without another word, Hyrkan slowly raised his left hand, a dry click echoing as he activated the high-tech watch on his wrist. The watch face flashed, displaying the words "Slot on." Immediately, a brilliant blue energy, like streams of digital data, poured from the device, enveloping Hyrkan's arm and entire body in a powerful aura. The surrounding air became extremely tense, signaling an unavoidable battle.
Glimmering blue data blocks sparkled and dissipated around Hyrkan's figure. He stood there, katana gripped tightly in his hand, the mask concealing the upper half of his face but failing to hide his smug smirk. "Huh, that's a feeling only weaklings like you can have," he scoffed, his sharp gaze fixed on his opponent. Hearing the provocation, Sirre's face flushed with rage. She gritted her teeth, her hand clutching her collar as if to suppress her burning fury. "Arrogant bastard! Kill him!" she screamed, her voice cracking with anger. In response to the hateful command, Hyrkan simply burst into arrogant laughter. "Kill me? Don't you ever learn? You'll never be able to kill me!" His words were abruptly cut off. A streak of crimson light tore through the air, slashing directly into Hyrkan's chest. Fresh blood splattered. The confident smile on his lips froze, replaced by wide eyes filled with shock and disbelief. "Huh?"
A sense of unease suddenly washed over Hyrkan as strange figures abruptly appeared before him. What the? Before he could gather his wits, a sharp, chilling pain pierced him from behind. Hyrkan froze, coughing up a mouthful of fresh blood, his eyes wide with horror and disbelief. A razor-sharp dagger, stained red with his comrade's blood, had pierced through his body. Piercing ding sounds rang out continuously as a series of red notification windows appeared before his eyes. HP rapidly decreasing, movement restricted. Hyrkan's body began to dissolve into streams of blue data as he collapsed to the damp ground. "What is this? Cuff?" He wheezed with difficulty, struggling to look up at his attacker. From above, a familiar voice echoed down, cold and distant. "Sorry for deceiving you, Jaehyun. We all have to make a living. Don't blame me for this." What? The cruel explanation struck Hyrkan's mind like a hammer blow. He lay there, drenched in cold sweat, his eyes filled with utter bewilderment at the blatant betrayal. In the silence of the forest, a dry, bitter snort escaped his throat. Phut. Huh.
Amidst the lush green forest, Sirre's chilling, gleeful laughter echoed. She clutched her stomach, throwing her head back in a burst of triumphant laughter, her long black hair flying with each tremor of her body. At her feet, Hyrkan lay sprawled on the damp ground, his eyes wide with shock, unable to believe the scene before him. Sirre took a decisive step towards Hyrkan, her heel pressing lightly into the moist layer of leaves. She gently covered her mouth, her eyes curving into a mocking crescent moon. "Oh my, you really are stupid," her voice rang out, sweet yet sharp as a knife. "You got caught up in that ridiculous fantasy of friendship, as if it matters compared to money?" The atmosphere around them suddenly became silent, with only tiny glowing particles drifting in the air. Sirre leaned down, her silky black hair falling close to Hyrkan's bewildered face. Her voice became cold, devoid of any warmth. "Hyrkan, I'm going to eliminate you from this game. If I just keep killing you every time you log in, even you won't be able to progress." She gently smoothed the strand, her blue eyes flashing with a cruel light in the dim forest light. A smug smirk bloomed on her lips, signaling an unshakable verdict.
Hyrkan's breathing became labored, each exhausted gasp escaping as he collapsed onto the damp grass. From above, Sir's voice rang out, cold and condescending. "Oh right, you're a full-time Warlord gamer, aren't you?" she mocked. Wasn't it you who said you were a worthless piece of trash with nothing but this game? Too bad for you. A twisted, cruel smile bloomed on Sirre's lips, her eyes flashing with madness as she uttered the final words. You're back to being trash again. Each word was like a dagger stabbing into Hyrkan's pride. His hands clenched into the ground, his whole body trembling with rage. Damn it, Hyrkan roared in despair. Shut your mouth! With the last of his strength, he surged to his feet, charging forward in a frenzy of fury. But in response to his desperate attack, there was only a sharp sound, tearing through the air. A cry of pain echoed, followed by a streak of crimson blood spraying, dyeing the space red.
A sudden, sharp pain shot through Hyrkan's back. His eyes widened in horror, splatters of fresh blood erupting in his vision. Nearby, Sirre stood motionless, a hint of surprise on her beautiful face. "Oh dear," she murmured, her tone as casual as if she had witnessed a minor incident. The cold blade twisted deeper, and Hyrkan collapsed, his breath catching in his throat. He was being held down by his own teammates, a dagger buried in his body. As his strength ebbed away, Hyrkan saw Sirre slowly fall to the grass, a satisfied smile gracing her lips. "Thank you, everyone," she whispered. Blood began to trickle from the corner of Hyrkan's mouth. He looked up at those who had once been his brothers in arms, his eyes filled with bewilderment and disbelief. Why? You know how much I've given to our guild." The man holding him, the one who had delivered the fatal blow, leaned down and looked at him with contempt. He called Hyrkan by his real name in a cruel tone. "Jaehyun, just die. People are paying us hundreds of millions just to take your life. What else do you expect us to do?" Those venomous words were more painful than the physical wound. Hyrkan's entire body trembled, not from the cold of approaching death, but from the burning rage of betrayal. "Just for money?" he choked out, blood mingling with his words. "Do you even know all that I've done for you?" The man holding him, the one who had delivered the fatal blow, leaned down and looked at him with contempt. He called Hyrkan by his real name in a cruel tone. "Jaehyun, just die. People are paying us hundreds of millions just to take your life. What else do you expect us to do?" Those venomous words were more painful than the physical wound. Hyrkan's entire body trembled, not from the cold of approaching death, but from the burning rage of betrayal. "Just for money?" he choked out, blood mingling with his words. "Do you even know all that I've done for you?"
Fresh blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. Hyrkan collapsed, his eyes filled with resentment and despair. His final breath in this virtual world became a pained growl, echoing in the pink-tinged sky of the sunset. "Didn't you say we were family? Damn it!" From above, Sirre looked down at him with an indifferent, almost cold expression, a faint, almost emotionless smile playing on her lips. Beside her, another man grinned savagely, his eyes gleaming with a morbid delight as he witnessed Hyrkan's downfall. Damn it! The last curse echoed in his mind as his consciousness gradually sank into endless darkness. The virtual world shattered. Before him was only a pitch-black screen, torn apart by glaring, blood-red system messages flashing incessantly. Deceased. Warning. The lines of text continued to appear one after another, relentless and cold. Finally, a huge notification appeared, hammering into his retina. Warning. You have died. Penalty. Unable to log in for 48 hours. Hyrkan's eyes widened, his horror reflecting the crimson light of failure. A piercing whoosh sounded. The real world rushed back abruptly and violently. Ahn Jaehyun jolted upright in the login machine, the helmet still on his head. He gasped for breath, his chest heaving violently, trying to gulp in every bit of air in the dark and cluttered room.
In the darkness of despair, Jaehyun hung his head, the heavy weight of failure pressing down on his shoulders. "I've lost everything. It all started with Warlord." This AI-driven virtual reality game had become a global phenomenon, captivating millions of players. Dramatic sieges, like the scene of a colossal red dragon roaring in a sea of flames, were streamed live to tens of thousands of viewers who readily donated massive sums of money to show their admiration. It was a world that could generate unimaginable wealth, and it was the only thing I had ever been good at. In real life, I was just a useless nobody, but in Warlord, as Hyrkan, I was a completely different person. Under the dim light of the forest, the blood of the recently slain monster still glistened on my sword. A man in armor with a friendly smile and a ponytail approached me. He exclaimed in astonishment, "Wow, what level are you? Your gaming skills are incredible. Would you like to form a guild with me?" He extended his hand, a sincere invitation. That handshake was proof of recognition. It was the only place I truly belonged. It used to be.
Tears streamed down his cheeks as bitter memories flooded back, Jaehyun grinding his teeth together. "I forgive them." The whispered words of the past echoed, a self-deceiving promise. He had once grabbed a jacket, slipped on sandals, and rushed out into the night, leaving behind panicked faces, desperate arms reaching out to him. Back then, he had chosen to leave, but now only seething resentment remained in his heart. "I will find them and kill them all." Just then, the phone in his hand vibrated intensely, the screen lighting up with the words, "Dong-soo is calling." Jaehyun stared at it, bitter questions swirling in his mind. What was the point of enduring all that hardship, just so those bastards could live a good life without me? He walked aimlessly, not noticing the pedestrian light had turned red. The savage screech of tires on asphalt erupted beside him. A truck was speeding towards him at a terrifying pace. In the final moment, as the blinding headlights swallowed him whole, Jaehyun's face contorted in pain and utter despair. Tears streamed endlessly. Damn it, if only I knew things would end up like this.
If only I hadn't bothered caring about anyone else from the very beginning. A horrifying crash erupted, tearing through the silent night. The jarring sound of metal colliding and bones breaking echoed in the air. Jaehyun's body was flung into the air like a broken puppet before slamming onto the cold pavement. Fresh blood immediately poured out, staining a section of the road red, mottled among the white paints of the crosswalk. Amidst the scattered debris, Jaehyun lay motionless, the piercing screams of passers-by echoing from afar. His consciousness faded into darkness, his breath becoming ragged and heavy. Beside him, the shattered phone emitted a cold, automated voice. "The number you have dialed is currently unavailable. Please try again later." Damn it, Jaehyun groaned inwardly, the strong metallic taste of blood filling his mouth. Of all things, it had to be a garbage truck. No, I can't die now. That treacherous bastard.
Lying in a pool of blood, Jaehyun's consciousness gradually dissolved. He raised his hazy eyes to look at the figure standing over him. The man, with a ferocious expression, roared maniacally. "Just die already. They're offering hundreds of millions just to kill you. What else do you think we'd do?" Hatred flared in Jaehyun's heart as he thought about that bastard who betrayed him. Immediately after, the image of Sirre's malicious and satisfied smile appeared, haunting his mind. In his final moments, as life slipped from his grasp, a venomous vow was etched deep into Jaehyun's soul. "I must take revenge on all of them in the most brutal way." His consciousness plunged into endless darkness, then was suddenly torn apart by a strange blue light. In the midst of the ethereal space, electronic lines of text began to appear. Connecting, authenticating user. A notification window suddenly popped up in front of him. "Welcome, username Hyrkan." Jaehyun slowly opened his eyes, his piercing blue eyes reflecting utter bewilderment and confusion.
A dry ding echoed and a cold blue system window appeared before his eyes. Tutorial complete. Survive the Maze Master, Minotaur. Immediately after the announcement, a colossal monster with a human body and a bull's head emerged, its red eyes flashing with deadly light in the darkness of the maze. At the monster's feet, bodies lay scattered in pools of blood. Its enormous shadow loomed over the catastrophic scene, an overwhelming power that suffocated. Jaehyun was stunned, his mind blank. A tutorial quest? What the hell is this? He thought, his eyes wide with disbelief at what was happening. "Hey, rookie!" a rough voice boomed, interrupting Jaehyun's thoughts. A man who looked experienced, gripping a sword tightly, shouted angrily, "Don't just stand there! Pull yourself together! You saw the announcement, didn't you? We have to take down that monster!" The Minotaur responded to the challenge with an earth-shattering roar, shaking the very space around them. The monster panted heavily, exhaling hot air. In the ruined hall, only the three of them remained, facing it. The man who had shouted assessed the situation and said, "Looks like one person alone can't take this thing down. Maybe all three of us have to charge together." His gaze shifted to Jaehyun, his voice decisively ordering, "You take the first hit."
In the dark, damp space of a cave, Jaehyun leaned against the cold rock wall, his mind in turmoil. He mumbled to himself, "The guide boss? The Minotaur? Wasn't it removed 5 years ago because of the difficulty?" His words caused a man in the group to turn and look at him with a confused expression. 5 years ago? What are you talking about? Warlord only came out 10 months ago. That information was like a bolt of lightning, leaving Jaehyun completely stunned. His face was blank, his mind empty. 10 months ago? While Jaehyun was still trying to absorb this unbelievable truth, his teammates had begun to look at him with suspicion. He slowly stood up, muttering as if to reassure himself. "Oh, I see. It's only been 10 months. The man from before, looking impatient, began to give orders. "All right, focus everyone. When I signal, you rush out and—" But before he could finish, a figure flashed past. Jaehyun suddenly surged forward, without a word of warning. The rapid sound of his footsteps echoed in the cave. "Where are you going?" the man shouted in astonishment. Leaving his stunned teammates behind, Jaehyun charged ahead alone, his steps decisive on the cold stone floor, leaving behind bewilderment and a big question mark for everyone.
In the dilapidated dungeon, 2 guards stood frozen at the gate, utterly horrified by the scene unfolding before them. One couldn't help but cry out in despair, "Hey, are you crazy?" Ignoring the warning, Jaehyun didn't hesitate. He shot forward, his body like an arrow piercing the heavy air, heading straight for the colossal monster. The beast's crimson eyes immediately locked onto the small figure charging towards it. Roaring furiously, it growled, its voice shaking the very ground. "You will die!" It swung its enormous fist, the size of a boulder, down on Jaehyun's position with devastating force. The punch tore through the air, carrying a deathly red aura. But just as the fist was about to crush him, Jaehyun calmly raised his arm to block. A terrifying sound echoed. His eyes flashed with a cold blue light as he effortlessly stopped the heaven-shattering attack. At the point of impact, a brilliant blue aura erupted, completely overwhelming the monster's fiery red power.
A dazzling blue energy flashed, tearing through space in a sharp and brutal slash. With icy eyes and intense focus, Jaehyun unleashed a single blow. The blade of light sliced through the monster's body with ease, fresh blood spraying, staining a patch of dark rock crimson. In a final, agonizing roar, the monster's massive body was cleaved in two and crashed to the ground with a heavy thud, ending its existence instantly. Witnessing the scene from afar, 2 men could only stand dumbfounded. One of them, with an expression of utter astonishment, stammered, "What? That guy just took down that monster with a single blow?" The comrade beside him merely glanced at him, a knowing smirk playing on his lips, as if he had anticipated this outcome.
In the desolate and frigid space, a voice suddenly echoed, shattering the heavy silence. Jaehyun, his face smeared with blood, flinched and turned around. Before him, a man with neatly tied black hair was smiling, extending a hand in a friendly gesture. "I don't usually say things like this, but you have real talent. Would you like to join our group?" The invitation and the outstretched hand were like a cruel key, throwing open the door to painful memories that Jaehyun had tried to bury. The image of a person in armor with a hand outstretched in the hazy past resurfaced, overlapping with reality. Jaehyun's eyes widened, his previous exhaustion vanished, replaced by horror and a cold, resolute glint. He slowly stood up, the sword in his hand seemingly sensing his master's change. Amidst the shattered stone, Jaehyun lowered himself, his voice deepening, heavy. "I just made a decision a moment ago." The The two men stared at each other blankly, completely uncomprehending. One of them asked back in confusion, "Huh? A decision? What decision?" Before he could finish speaking, a blinding light sliced through the air. Jaehyun surged forward like a storm, his blade tracing a deadly blue streak. The faces of the two recruiters froze in astonishment and disbelief as the fatal blow was upon them.
A tremendous force hurled Jaehyun backward. Fresh blood sprayed, staining his white hair crimson and splattering across his battered body. As consciousness faded, a bitterly sarcastic smile bloomed on Jaehyun's bloodied lips. He rasped in his last breath, a vow etched into his very soul by pain and betrayal. "If I ever trust anyone again in this life, then I'm a dog." Though his body was at its limit, his eyes burned with a terrifying intensity, reflecting hatred and a cold determination forged in hell. A soft hiss sounded as the lid of the high-tech pod slowly opened. Jaehyun slowly sat up, his hand gripping the machine's edge for balance. He raised his hand to his helmet, his face still showing a hint of grogginess. Suddenly, his eyes widened in surprise. "This place is," he thought to himself. He stood in the middle of a vast, brightly lit and incredibly modern space. The noisy sounds of people talking and walking echoed everywhere, amidst rows of neatly arranged virtual reality gaming equipment. He stepped out of the pod, looking around at the strangely unfamiliar yet familiar scene. A V-Gear store? A bead of cold sweat suddenly trickled down his temple as a memory rushed back. Jaehyun mumbled to himself, his voice full of confusion. "Come to think of it, 5 years ago I was still broke, so I always had to come to stores like this to play games on the display units." His whole body stiffened as a terrifying thought flashed through his mind. His eyes narrowed in shock. Could it be that I've actually gone back in time? But then the initial panic quickly gave way to a surge of intense determination. He turned around, resolutely running off, his mind fixed on a single thought: "I have work to do."
Amidst the bustling crowd, Jaehyun darted like an arrow. His face bore a look of resolute madness, his eyes burning with the fire of hatred. His entire mind was now focused on a single objective. "I have 5 years of future information and experience. If I use it, I can definitely get my revenge." He suddenly burst into a tech store, his breath ragged and gasping. The female employee behind the counter flinched at his abrupt appearance. Without a second's hesitation, Jaehyun brandished his hand, thrusting a credit card in front of her. "A basic V-Gear set, please," he yelled, his voice hoarse from exertion. Bracing himself against the counter, Jaehyun panted, sweat pouring down his forehead. The female employee, still bewildered, stammered in response. "Yes, let me help you." Jaehyun paid no mind, slamming the card onto the counter with a smile that was both satisfied and somewhat wild. "Here!" Immediately, his mind was swept into a whirlwind of plans. What should I do first? I need to start by leveling up. Seeing the strange customer muttering to himself, the employee cautiously spoke up. "Sir? Sir?"
With a professional but somewhat apologetic smile, the salesgirl handed the card back to Jaehyun. "You don't have enough money." That sentence struck him like a bolt of lightning. "Huh?" Jaehyun could only utter a sound. The world around him seemed to stop. All colors faded, leaving only a blank astonishment on his face. The initial shock quickly gave way to a wry, self-mocking smile. A cold drop of sweat trickled down his temple. Anger and helplessness flared. Damn it, that's right. Jaehyun's whole body seemed to collapse. He slumped his head onto the counter, his hands raking through his messy hair. "If I had the money, I would have bought one. What the hell am I doing playing games here?" The darkness of despair enveloped Jaehyun's mind, gripping him in panic. His face flushed red, his eyes wide with fear. What do I do now? Earn money right now? But it'll be too late. Just as he sank deep into the abyss of despair, a blue window, looking like a game system interface, suddenly appeared before his eyes. The glowing text spun directly into his mind. "What are you waiting for?" Jaehyun froze, his eyes wide with surprise at this unexpected event.
Amidst the space filled with ethereal blue light, Sirre's graceful voice rang out, refined yet powerful. Her image, with long black hair and a gentle smile, appeared amidst the swirling feathers. "The strong never fear challenges," she said, her tone resolute. "Hesitation is a luxury you cannot afford in battle. Become a war overlord. Begin, overlord." Jaehyun stood there, his back to the voice. Before him on a giant screen was the promotional image for the game, Thunder Queen Sirre, the top-ranked warlord Warlord model, followed by the dazzling Warlord logo with a magnificent golden dragon emblem. The light from the screen swallowed his small figure. He remained silent, deep in thought. Suddenly, the space around Jaehyun plunged into a thick darkness, stained by a terrifying red. Sirre's encouraging smile vanished, replaced by a twisted smirk appearing in his mind, full of contempt. His eyes widened, streaked with the blood-red lines of bitterness and resentment. Another voice, also Sirre's but cruel and cold, rang out like a knife straight to his heart. "You've become a piece of trash again." Darkness enveloped everything completely, and from deep within his throat, Jaehyun uttered an acknowledgement gritted through his teeth. "Yeah."
Jaehyun's gaze sharpened. A steely resolve echoed in his mind. Now is not the time for hesitation. The twilight sky, painted a hazy orange and purple, enveloped the quiet residential area. Inside the apartment, a sleek, futuristic, silver-white capsule-shaped machine had just been put into place. Its door slowly slid open with a soft click. The technician, carrying his toolbox and turning towards the door, announced, "The V-Gear installation is complete. You can use it immediately. I'll take my leave now." Standing amidst the somewhat cluttered room, Jaehyun absently replied, his eyes fixed on the advanced machine before him. Yes. Once the technician had left, Jaehyun slowly approached. His hand glided lightly over the machine's smooth, polished surface. In his other palm, he clutched a business card tightly. A calculating look gleamed in his eyes. "The fastest way for me to earn money."
It all began with this yellow business card. In the somewhat dim room, Jaehyun sat across from the stranger. The man pushed the business card towards him with a warm smile. The man spoke in a cheerful tone. 10 million won? Of course. But suddenly a knife plunged down, pinning Jaehyun's hand to the table. The atmosphere instantly grew tense, tinged with a threatening red. The friendly smile vanished, replaced by a sinister and malicious expression as the man growled, "If you can't repay the debt, your life will turn into hell." Jaehyun swallowed hard, cold sweat breaking out on his forehead, silently enduring the warning. Clenching the business card in his hand until it crumpled, Jaehyun made up his mind. So be it.
Jaehyun's hands trembled slightly as he carefully placed the connection helmet onto his head. His body leaned back, sinking into the state-of-the-art gaming pod. A soft whir echoed as the system began to boot up, and the words "connecting" appeared before his eyes. In the brief moment of synchronization, Jaehyun's mind was engulfed in the flames of hatred. "Even if I fall into hell, I'll make those bastards pay." Sirre's smug, scornful smile and the frantic demeanor of the man beside her appeared vividly, etched deep into his mind. The surging indignation transformed into a furious roar. "Connecting!" Inside the helmet, his eyes blazed with a fierce blue, his face etched with iron determination. The space around him disintegrated into countless data streams. A system screen appeared, the words "Identifying User" blinking. A blue light erupted, enveloping his consciousness. The digital night was replaced by a clear, brilliant blue sky. Confirmed. And then, amidst the vast expanse of the virtual world, a name appeared, asserting his return. Hyrkan.
A brilliant green light flashed, and Hyrkan appeared in the heart of a magnificent city with towering spires. The words "Welcome to Warlord" appeared and then dissolved into the air. Standing in the dark space where white electrical sparks crackled and danced around him, Hyrkan slightly curled his lips, his eyes glinting with nostalgia. It's been a long time, he thought to himself, his mind beginning to work. She's coming soon. What was her name? Arya. At the same time, a brilliant yellow notification appeared confirming, "Congratulations on completing the tutorial." The clear blue sky suddenly brightened. A dazzling golden light beam shone down from above, carrying a figure slowly descending. It was a woman with lustrous golden hair, dressed in an elegant black gown adorned with intricate golden details. A sacred halo radiated around her, majestic and ethereal. The girl with icy blue eyes spoke, her clear voice echoing throughout the space. "I am Arya Won, here to help you choose a profession." That's right, it's her. Hyrkan silently confirmed in his mind. Arya Won continued. "Now, adventurer." She slowly extended her slender hand forward, a warm golden energy beginning to gather in her palm, ready to grant him a new beginning.
The female NPC's voice resonated like a sacred instruction. You must choose one of the basic classes. There are 3 basic classes in total, and the skills you choose to upgrade here will determine your specific character class later on. The space around them darkened, making way for swirling golden energy streams that formed a robust silhouette. Ahn introduced, "First is the warrior. They fight on the front lines with melee weapons. I recommend this class if you want intense action." Hyrkan crossed his arms, thoughtfully gazing at the warrior's illusion. He murmured to himself, "A warrior, huh? I could definitely level up quickly since I've played before, but it'll get harder to solo later on." After some consideration, he decisively made his choice. Skip. The warrior's image vanished. Ahn continued, unfazed. Another golden light gathered, this time forming a hooded figure with hands clasped in prayer. "The cleric," she explained. "You will use healing power to strengthen and restore others." Skip. Hyrkan interrupted immediately, his expression resolute. "I have no intention of cleaning up after others." Hyrkan's face clearly showed extreme annoyance and discomfort, but Ahn, standing beside him, was completely the opposite. She maintained a serene composure, her eyes closed and the corners of her lips curving into a gentle, tranquil smile. A warm, golden orb of light gathered in her palm. Ahrian's voice rang out, clear and soft. "Then there is only one choice left. I hope you will have a truly interesting adventure." As soon as she finished speaking, she clasped her hands together. The orb of light flared up violently. Streams of dazzling golden energy, like vibrant ribbons, poured from her hands and surged directly towards Hyrkan, engulfing him in a brilliant vortex. Before he could react, he was completely enveloped by the warm yet incredibly potent energy. Hyrkan's eyes widened in astonishment, his pupils now reflecting the brilliant golden hue of the power swirling around him. The entire space was bathed in light, then abruptly turned a stark white. A blue system window appeared before his eyes. The notification text appeared clearly. "You have chosen a basic profession." A column of blue data light enveloped Hyrkan, tearing through space and teleporting him away. As the digital codes dissipated, he found himself standing inside a vast hall, a magical tower with enormous bookshelves reaching up to the dimly lit ceiling. From above, a beam of light shone down, and an ancient scholarly voice echoed. An old wizard with a long white beard, holding a crystal-studded staff, was seated on a massive book suspended in midair. He calmly spoke, "Welcome, young man seeking knowledge. I am Golko, the guide on the path of magic." Ancient golden magical symbols shimmered around the old wizard. Golko smiled kindly, looked down at Hyrkan and asked, "So, what kind of magic do you wish to learn? Just tell me any kind you." "Dark magic." Hyrkan interrupted without hesitation, his voice resolute and cold in the quiet space. The smile on Golko's face immediately froze. The old wizard fell silent, his eyes wide with bewilderment and confusion, staring at the young man below. The entire vast tower plunged into a heavy, awkward silence. Hyrkan also looked up, wondering about the wizard's strange reaction.
Golko sat on an enormous book, his hand resting on a staff that emitted a soft glow, and he cheerily said, "Aha, Earth! You want to learn Earth magic, don't you? Please forgive an old man. My ears are a bit—" Hyrkan interrupted him, a cold smile faintly gracing his lips while his gaze remained firm. "No, I want to learn dark magic." This unexpected declaration immediately made Golko's old confused expression vanish. His eyes widened, seriousness and astonishment clearly visible. "Where did you hear that? Dark magic is very powerful, but it will destroy the user's soul." "I know," Hyrkan calmly replied, the determination in his voice unwavering. "I know the risks, so please teach me." A confident smile appeared on his angular face. Deep down, he affirmed with certainty, "It must be dark magic. It's what I need." Faced with Hyrkan's resolve, Golko's entire body began to tremble violently, cold sweat breaking out on his wrinkled forehead. He stammered, "How can this be? This is—" Suddenly, a surging wave of dark purple energy erupted from the old man's body. Golko's flesh melted like wax, revealing a screaming skeleton in a violent transformation. His voice now became echoing and eerie. "It will go smoothly. This is it." As the dark energy subsided, Golko's true form emerged, a skeleton wearing a wizard's robe, its eye sockets glowing with a ghostly purple light. The staff in the skeleton's hand now radiated a brilliant halo. A dry, chilling laugh resounded. "Ha ha ha ha! It's been so long since a kid chose this path."
Amidst the dim space, streams of dark energy swirled around Jaehyun and the massive ancient book before him. Golko spoke, his voice resounding with authority. If you are truly ready, place your hand on this skill book, but you must choose wisely. This path is too difficult for any ordinary person to... Hyrkan merely remained silent, his gaze unwavering. Before Golko's warning had ended, he acted abruptly. A crash echoed as Hyrkan's hand forcefully pressed down on the book's cover. Brilliant blue energy erupted from the point of contact, clashing with the surrounding dark aura. Hyrkan lifted his head, a cold and confident smile spreading across his lips. His green eyes flashed with challenge as the dark energy now began to surge around his body. He said nonchalantly, "Hurry up, sorry, but I am not one of those ordinary people."
The eerie, horrifying laughter of Golko echoed throughout the space, beginning with a dry kek before bursting into a long arrogance peal. From within the dark purple mist, his bleached white skeletal jaw appeared. Facing the powerful entity, Hyrkan gritted his teeth, cold sweat beating on his temples. A torrent of purple magical energy swirled violently around him. Golko's ancient and intrigued voice resonated from within the smoke. "What an interesting fellow. It's been a long time since I've met someone like you." Jaehyun's mind sank into a distant memory. "In my previous life, there was an incredibly famous video. It was footage of the only summoner player. A solitary figure in a wizard's hat obscured their face, revealing only glowing eyes and empty sockets, appearing with immense majesty. Who defeated the boss alone?" The legendary image reappeared in Hyrkan's mind, a cloaked figure hovering in a desolate sky. Below him, an army of skeletons and abundant zombies, all obeying his command. That magnificent scene had become an endless source of inspiration. And right now, I myself...
Cascading magical energy swirled around Hyrkan, radiating an aura of deep violet and mystical blue. His eyes blazed fiercely, reflecting unyielding resolve. This was the power he had always craved. Suddenly, a series of system notifications echoed in his mind. He had officially become a summoner, bearing the title Apprentice Summoner, and learning his first skill, Bone Shard. Hyrkan's lips curved into a cold, self-satisfied smile. He whispered, as if to confirm to himself, "Bone Shard." Immediately, he extended his hand forward. A skull engulfed in spectral blue flames appeared from thin air. In the room filled with towering bookshelves, he casually dropped it to the floor. The skull hit hard and shattered into pieces. But that was not the end. A stream of mana began to be absorbed into the broken bone fragments. From them, a skeletal warrior gradually reconstructed and took form amidst a hazy blue smoke. Hyrkan stood there, arms crossed, looking down at his first creation rising from the wreckage, the smile on his face growing even colder. In this life, everything would be completely different.
In the decisive moment, a surge of blue magical energy violently erupted. From within the energy vortex, a colossal skeleton gradually materialized. Eerie blue flames blazed in its eye sockets, its entire body exuding an aura of death and authority. Standing before the creature he had just summoned, Hyrkan smirked with self-satisfaction and sharpness. The choice was complete, and the path to power lay open before him. He excitedly planned, "Good, now time to level up. Where's the training dungeon?" Clunk. Hyrkan's words were abruptly cut short by a dry sound. Right in front of him, the skeleton's skull suddenly fell to the ground, rolled a few times, and then lay still. In the vast space, amidst towering stacks of books, Hyrkan and his skeleton stood facing each other in awkward silence. All confidence and excitement on his face vanished, leaving only extreme bewilderment. Huh?
Materialized in the gloomy space, the ground cracked from the concentrated power. Hyrkan stepped out, and as soon as his heel touched the ground, the vortex behind him vanished. He let out a long breath as a system notification appeared before his eyes, confirming he had entered the training dungeon for beginners. However, a strange sensation permeated Hyrkan's mind, making him furrow his brow slightly. Cold sweat beaded on his temples as he tried to comprehend this difference. He mumbled in confusion, "This feeling isn't like the leisurely skeletons I saw in my previous life. What's going on?" To find the answer, he commanded, "Skill window." Instantly, an interface screen appeared, displaying information about the skeleton shard skill. Its proficiency was only at F, and currently he could only summon one skeleton warrior. Hyrkan rubbed his chin thoughtfully. He mused, is it because my proficiency is still low? I need to level up quickly." Suddenly, his thoughts were cut short by a new presence. Hyrkan's eyes gleamed sharply. A cold smile subtly formed on his lips as he thought, perfect timing.
In the dark night of the desolate wasteland, savage growls echoed. From the shadows, a pack of coal wolves charged out, their eyes burning red like hot embers, bearing sharp, menacing fangs. They were monsters created for training, and now they had found their target. Faced with the ferocious beasts, Hyrkan merely smirked, showing no signs of wavering. He thought to himself, coal wolves, they're not strong, but agile, perfect for testing performance. A confident and challenging smile spread across Hyrkan's face, his eyes gleaming with an enchanting blue light. He raised his hand, and emerald-green energy streams like lightning began to gather in his palm, forming a brilliant magic orb. Bone shard, he chanted, then resolutely pushed the energy orb forward. Charge! The magic orb shot forth swiftly, tearing through the air and plunging directly into the ground right before the wolf pack. A violent blue energy explosion erupted, scattering dirt and rocks around. From the heart of the explosion, an emerald-green magical flame rose, gradually forming a dry skeleton. Its empty eye sockets glowed brightly, and it slowly stood up, its bone joints clattering. As soon as it detected its enemies, the skeletal warrior immediately assumed the combat stance, ready to charge into the slaughter.
The warrior skeleton roared with an echoing sound, blue magical flames blazing in its eye sockets, signaling a bloody hunt was about to begin. Facing it, a pack of black wolves with eyes glowing red like embers were snarling, bearing The battle erupted swiftly, the warrior skeleton charging left and right amidst the pack of wolves, collision sounds echoing continuously. Witnessing the scene, Hyrkan appeared utterly content, muttering to himself, "Oh, more effective than expected. At this rate, I'll reach max level in no time." However, the wolf pack was too numerous and ferocious. They quickly overwhelmed it completely, using sharp fangs and claws to tear the skeleton into pieces. The warrior skeleton was ripped to shreds by the wolves, falling to the ground along with shattered bone fragments, utterly destroyed right before Hyrkan's eyes.
Thump! A dry bone fragment unexpectedly fell, lightly hitting Hyrkan's head, startling him. He looked down in confusion, a flicker of doubt crossing his mind. The skull was not only looking up, but seemed to be weeping, a shimmering tear seemingly about to spill from its azure eye socket as it timidly recoiled. Hyrkan's face contorted with extreme astonishment, his mind a jumbled mess of huge question marks. He cried out in alarm, "Wait, what? Something's not right here! Skill window!" Instantly, a blue system notification panel appeared before him, titled Skeletal Fragment. The skill panel displayed detailed parameters. It had a deep learning system, allowing it to learn from battles and, most importantly, 3 preset modes. Number 1, defensive mode, number 2, offensive mode, and number 3, special action mode. Hyrkan raised a hand to his forehead, letting out a sigh of relief as he understood the issue. He muttered, "So that's it. I didn't set the mode. That was really lucky." Regaining his resolute look, he pointed forward and decisively commanded, "Number 1, defensive mode."
After receiving the command, the skeleton warrior still lay on the barren rocky ground, 2 gigantic black wolves growling ferociously, and the dry sound of bones breaking echoed. Witnessing the scene, Hyrkan was frozen, cold sweat pouring down his forehead. His face paled, and he muttered in utter panic and despair, "No, impossible. This can't be happening. Do I really have to use Special Action Mode 3? The moment the thought flashed, a blue system window appeared in mid-air. The skeleton warrior has begun its wild dance. A mystical pinkish-purple aura suddenly enveloped the skeleton. Instead of fighting, it began to twist wildly and mesmerizingly, dancing in the battlefield. The scene became utterly absurd as the 2 ferocious wolves suddenly froze, their red eyes now glistening, cheeks flushed, captivated by each strange movement of the skeleton. Standing petrified from afar, Hyrkan felt his whole body stiffen. A desperate thought flashed in his mind. "Oh, I'm screwed." Tears began to stream down Hyrkan's bewildered face. In his mind, the image of old Golko appeared, shaking his finger reproachfully. "I tried to stop you, kid."
In despair, he tried to delete the character, only to receive a cold system notification that appeared before his eyes. Cannot delete character. Accounts under 3 months cannot delete characters. Sitting up abruptly, Hyrkan ran his hands through his silver hair, staring blankly into space. "I can't even delete a character. Changing professions isn't working either," he muttered in despair, the burden from the real world weighing on his shoulders. Next month is the debt repayment deadline. For a moment, the dark image of a car accident flashed through his mind. Maybe I should go out and get hit by a car again. He clutched his head, helplessness and anger welling up. Why does nothing ever go my way? I thought everything was finally getting better. His eyes darted to the ignorant skeleton soldier waving its limbs beside him, and this idiotic bonehead isn't helping at all. The skeleton's chaotic movements further irritated him. "Ha!" Hyrkan roared, unable to bear it anymore. "You're driving me crazy. Stand still. How did that summoner guy in my previous life handle guys like you?" No sooner had the words left his mouth than a light flashed in his mind. Hyrkan's eyes widened, surprise and a sudden idea clearly visible on his face. Huh?
Amidst the silence, a system window suddenly appeared before Hyrkan, displaying chilling text. Information about the summoned creature left him stunned. It was equipped with a deep learning system and capable of learning from battles. Users could set default modes such as defense, attack, or special action. Hyrkan's eyes narrowed slightly, his mind fixated on a single detail. "Learning? From battles?" he murmured, a flash of astonishment in his eyes. Immediately, the image of his battle with the pack of Cinderwolves vividly returned to his memory. He realized that while he was fighting frantically, the skeleton was not merely a puppet. When I took down the Cinderwolves, it observed me and learned from me. This truth brought a cold smile to Hyrkan's lips. He turned to look at the skeleton standing quietly beside him, its eyes glowing with an eerie blue light in the darkness. He called out, his voice full of self-satisfaction, "Hey, I must look like an easy target, huh? You're truly lucky to have a master like me. I may not look like it, but people used to call me a genius. I even trained all my guild members into top-tier players, you know?"
Hyrkan began a special training session for his subordinate. A faint blue light flickered from the eye sockets of the skeleton warrior as it looked up at its master, listening to his instructions. "When fighting, just remember one thing." Hyrkan's voice rang out, cold and decisive. In that moment, his face appeared with a cruelly sharp smile, his blue eyes flashing with a fervent gleam. He snarled, pouring all his power into each word. "If you don't dodge, you'll die." Crash! A heavens-shaking punch struck the skeleton directly, sending it flying like a puppet with cut strings. Its bony body slammed hard against the jagged, rocky ground, creating a dry, cracking sound. Before it could recover, Hyrkan's cruel voice echoed again, like an undeniable command. Again! The poor skeleton was again flung into the air before falling face down. Again! The next impact was even stronger than the last, but the skeleton still stubbornly struggled to its feet. Despite the crack slowly appearing on its skull, the blue light in its eyes did not weaken. Instead, it flared up powerfully and with full resolve. It tightened its grip on the wooden mace in its hand, preparing itself mentally to face the next attack. Again!
A blinding white energy tore through space, striking the bone warrior directly. The immense impact force flung it backward, causing the skeleton to stagger and then collapse face down onto the cold ground, fragments scattering everywhere. Witnessing the scene, Hyrkan gritted his teeth, veins bulging on his temples as he roared in anger. "If you get hit, don't just stand there like an idiot. You have to think of a way to counterattack. Find an opening after dodging, then strike back. Understood?" His bellowing seemed to reach the motionless skeleton. A crack sound echoed. Amidst the rubble, it propped itself up with its hands, slowly getting to its feet. Amidst the hazy energy shower, the bone warrior stood upright, the magic gem in its chest also radiating a synchronized light. It gripped the mace tightly in its hand, its two eye sockets burning with a new fighting will, ready to charge into battle once more.
Two dark wolves with eyes glowing red like embers roared wildly. It darted towards the skeleton warrior, a hideous black streak tearing through the air. Faced with the monster, the skeleton warrior stood firm, its entire body enveloped in a chilling blue aura. It raised its bone club, promptly blocking the lunging wolf's sharp jaws. The moment the bite was thwarted, the skeleton warrior, without hesitation, swung its other arm, creating a brilliant blue slashing arc. The attack tore through the beast's dark body, causing it to fall to the ground, disintegrating in silence. The battle ended. Amidst the battlefield strewn with wolf corpses, the skeleton warrior stood tall, the last growls of the monster pack fading away. Standing not far away, Hyrkan stood with hands on his hips, quietly observing his subordinate. As if sensing his master's gaze, the skeleton warrior immediately turned. The ruthless appearance of a war machine vanished, replaced by proud and expectant glowing eye sockets, like a child waiting for praise. However, what responded was Hyrkan's stern voice. "Where are you looking? Didn't I tell you not to be distracted during combat?"
Hyrkan subtly smirked, his sharp eyes assessing the skeleton standing before him. He let out a sigh of relief, his voice filled with satisfaction. Your last blow wasn't bad." Immediately, a series of system notifications popped up, bright blue windows glowing in the dim space. The proficiency of the skeleton shard continuously increased. A brilliant golden column of light descended from the sky, engulfing Hyrkan. He crossed his arms, proudly observing his achievement, while the skeleton below was also enveloped in a similar aura. "You passed," Hyrkan declared decisively. A final notification appeared, confirming the training's success. Player level increased. Leaving the dungeon, Hyrkan returned to Figus Castle, a bustling beginner village. The central square was crowded with people, shouts echoing everywhere. Players in armor, carrying weapons, gathered, seeking teammates. Recruiting members for a family-friendly guild here. Looking for a party to hunt forest spiders. Amidst the noisy atmosphere, Hyrkan walked quietly, lost in his own thoughts. He mumbled, "This skeleton, it's quite worth teaching. A few more days of grinding and I can solo the entire training dungeon. Now, the real challenge begins. First, I need to reach level 10. With determined eyes, Hyrkan pulled up his black hood, concealing his prominent white hair, and blended into the crowd, steadily moving forward.
As he walked, Hyrkan suddenly stopped when a rough hand gripped his shoulder tightly. "Hey," the burly man, his face flushed red with anger, growled, "don't you think you should apologize when you bump into someone?" Standing behind him, a henchman quickly chimed in. "That's right, boss." Hyrkan merely gave them a cold glance, mentally assessing, what the hell is this? They look like third-rate thugs. He let out a soft sigh, a weary yet murderous thought fleetingly crossing his mind. Every second of my time is precious. Should I just kill them and get it over with? Hyrkan's indifferent sigh was like a provocation. The big man roared, his face contorted. What kind of person sighs in the middle of a conversation? As soon as he finished speaking, his tightened fist swung straight at Hyrkan's face. But a figure, quick as lightning, blocked the punch. It was a strange man with blonde hair, wearing sunglasses and a flamboyant Hawaiian shirt who had appeared out of nowhere. His hand easily clamped the thug's fist. Hyrkan remained still, a hint of surprise in his eyes at this unexpected intervention. He could only watch in silence.
A smug, somewhat condescending smile spread across his stubbly face. He casually spoke, his tone partly playful yet entirely patronizing. "Phew, but that's no reason for you to just go around hitting people indiscriminately, okay?" Immediately, another man with a tense expression rushed over. He pressed suspiciously, "Who are you? Are you on his side?" The blonde man remained unfazed. He merely glanced indifferently, giving an ambiguous reply. Not exactly." Hyrkan's eyes fixated on the blonde man, a mix of surprise and recognition flashing in his mind. This guy is... A cautious and calculating smile slowly formed on his lips. With a whoosh, a firm hand suddenly shot out, grabbing the collar of the man about to strike. Hyrkan, still on the ground, looked up in astonishment. The stranger with flowing blonde hair and tanned skin let out a soft sigh of relief, giving a casual smile. "Phew, hey pal, there's no need for physical violence like that." Unexpectedly grabbed, the thug spun around, roaring angrily. "Who the hell are you? Are you on his side?" The blonde man glanced down at Hyrkan, then shrugged indifferently. Not exactly." Lying on the ground, Hyrkan's eyes widened, astonishment clear on his face. A spark of recognition flickered in his mind as he observed the newcomer. That's him! Those muscles, and that bizarre fashion sense too. He couldn't mistake the rippling physique hidden beneath the flashy floral shirt and the sunglasses perched on that blonde hair. Above, the stranger maintained his self-satisfied, knowing smile.
Hyrkan was stunned. A name that couldn't be more familiar echoed in his mind. Mathador Shev, the top warrior from my previous life. But why is he here? Hyrkan mused, cold sweat beading on his forehead as he tried to comprehend this unbelievable presence. Wait! A sudden, sharp shout rang out, interrupting Hyrkan's chaotic thoughts. With an annoyed "Tch!" The stranger spat a mouthful of saliva onto the ground in front of Matador-Shev with utter contempt. The thug, face contorted in anger, growled menacingly, "Hey buddy, you'd best not interfere if you don't know him. He's the one who hit me first. Don't you know the saying, an eye for an eye?" Matador merely curved his lips into a slight smile, his expression utterly nonchalant and even somewhat amused by the opponent's aggression. He replied dismissively, "Ah ha ha, so that's how it is."
A fierce surge of crimson energy erupted violently, centered around Matador-Shev. He stood there, casually adjusting his shirt collar, exuding an arrogant self-confidence. The invisible pressure from the spreading aura left those nearby dazed. Hyrkan staggered back a few steps, clutching his head, his face contorted in shock. At the same time, the burly thug gaped in horror, eyes wide at the terrifying power that had just been unleashed. Amidst the chaotic scene, Matador-Shev smirked, a challenging smile on his face. "Well then," he uttered in a raspy voice, "since you just used your fist to strike my palm." His eyes suddenly turned icy cold, his pupils glowing blood red. He slowly clenched his fist, his fingers straining with a cracking sound. "I should do the same, shouldn't I?" Seeing the perilous situation, the two thugs broke out in a cold sweat. "Sir, that's Matador-Shev. He's the guildmaster of Red Bulls, one of the top 30 guilds."
His reputation stemmed not only from his unparalleled might, but also from his fervent passion for battle. That was Matador-Shev. Cold sweat poured down his temples. The fat man stammered in extreme panic. "What? Why would someone like that?" Before he could finish, a firm hand landed on his shoulder. A deep voice, laced with malicious amusement, echoed from behind. "So, what's your answer?" The fat man trembled uncontrollably. He slowly turned around, greeted by Matador's casual smile right next to his ear. Matador's gaze, though lacking murderous intent, carried an invisible pressure that suffocated him. The fat man's face was as white as a sheet, his eyes wide and vacant with fear. Bending abruptly, he screamed in despair, "I'm sorry!" then quickly fled for his life. Matador burst into hearty laughter, seemingly quite pleased. "Ha ha ha, I'm glad we could settle everything with words." Those around who witnessed the scene were stunned, whispering to each other in bewilderment, "With words?"
Matador-Shev friendly slung an arm over Hyrkan's shoulder, patting him lightly with a radiant smile. He spoke in a booming voice, "Hey, are you all right? Don't mind guys like him." Before he finished, Matador's large hand suddenly froze. Hyrkan shoved Matador's hand off his shoulder. "Huh?" Matador exclaimed in surprise, his eyes wide as he looked down. Hyrkan, who had been silently bowing his head until now, finally looked up. His eyes were sharp and cold beneath the hood's brim, his voice resolute and distant. "From now on, you don't need to help me anymore." With those words, Hyrkan coldly turned and walked straight into the crowd, leaving Matador-Shev stunned with his hands still suspended in midair. Watching the receding figure of the young man in the white hoodie, Matador could only utter a bewildered, "Huh?" He scratched his head, a wry smile appearing on his lips as he mumbled, "Well, he's truly a cold guy." Meanwhile, Hyrkan continued to stride decisively forward. "Damn it," he cursed inwardly through gritted teeth. In that moment, when Matador's hand rested on his shoulder, Hyrkan had felt a terrifying surge of power. His palm trembled uncontrollably. He had been completely overwhelmed by the other man's aura. Clenching his shaking hand into a firm fist, Hyrkan tried to suppress the profound shock within his mind.
Hyrkan's face was etched with fury, his teeth clenched as he uttered a venomous vow. "The next time we meet, I will be a completely different person." The promise of vengeance still echoed, but now Hyrkan sat alone in the dungeon. Jagged, rugged rock walls soared high, enclosing his solitary figure. Flickering light from torches randomly stuck into the rock face was the sole illumination, casting strange, dancing shadows upon the quiet, cold space. Amidst the eerie silence, Hyrkan sank into a stream of thought, recalling the bitter battle. "I truly felt the power gap between us," he bitterly admitted. "Shiru and Chev have comparable skill levels. To exact my revenge, I need to become stronger." The image of his foe with radiant blonde hair, bloodshot eyes, and a haughty smile suddenly appeared in his mind, fueling the flames of hatred. The grinding sound of his teeth resonated, a dry, harsh noise expressing the anger and iron will surging within his chest.
Suddenly, a thunderous roar echoed, tearing through the silence. The colossal ash tiger, with a body like carved stone and eyes blazing with malice, lunged at Hyrkan from behind with its maw wide open. But instantly, an eerie blue surge of energy erupted. The skeletal warrior shot towards the tiger like an arrow, landing a fatal blow to the monster's chest, creating a small energy explosion. Giving its opponent no chance to retaliate, the skeletal warrior spun, transforming into a deadly blue whirlwind, delivering the finishing blow. The ash tiger collapsed. Simultaneously, blue system notifications appeared. Skeletal warrior has slain ash tiger. Level up! A brilliant flash of light pulsed from the skeleton's eye sockets, signaling its completed power upgrade. The battle aura faded, returning the skeletal warrior to its somewhat diminutive appearance. It held its wooden staff, its blue eyes sparkling with expectation as it looked at Hyrkan, as if awaiting praise. However, Hyrkan was deep in his own thoughts, muttering, "It took 3 days to reach level 10, longer than I expected." Seeming to sense its master's indifference, the skeletal warrior suddenly drooped. It hung its head, its bony body exuding an air of dejection and disappointment. Noticing this sudden change, Hyrkan turned to look, his gaze revealing his confusion and surprise.
System messages continuously appeared in the virtual space, signaling the end of a phase. Congratulations, you have reached level 10. There are no more monsters in this training dungeon. Your novice emblem has been removed. Amidst a brilliant golden glow, Hyrkan smiled contentedly as the system began to deliver his rewards. A blue light enveloped his wrist, gradually coalescing into a familiar object. Finally done, he silently cheered, clenching his fist excitedly. The War Watch appeared, its high-tech face glowing exquisitely. Hyrkan looked at it, muttering to himself, stats, quests, maps, inventory, and even the messenger? These are all built-in features of the game. It's been a long time since I felt this way. A nostalgic yet confident smile crossed his face. Without a moment's hesitation, he commanded, "Status window." Immediately, a virtual blue information panel appeared. Level 10, Class Summoner. Title 1, Stats, Strength 3, Stamina 3, Intellect 5, Mana 5. Hyrkan clicked his tongue. Just as I predicted, the stats have been reset. Everything was proceeding according to his plan. Immediately after, a new notification window popped up, urging, "Please distribute your potential points." The point allocation screen appeared, ready for him to begin his path back to the top.
Hyrkan's eyes were half closed, his sharp gaze filled with contemplation. "This is my first time allocating stats. I must be very careful," he thought to himself. Normally, a summoner would focus on increasing energy or intelligence to optimize their magic. However, a challenging smirk appeared on Hyrkan's lips as he made a completely contradictory decision. All points will go into strength. As soon as he finished speaking, a radiant golden aura flared, enveloping his entire body. Pure power surged through every muscle fiber, an intense sensation that made his entire body taut. Immediately after, a system notification appeared. Strength has increased by 50. Total strength stat, 53. Hyrkan mumbled with a satisfied expression. He slowly clenched his hands, feeling the surge of physical power, a completely new and exhilarating sensation. Witnessing the entire scene, the skeleton warrior standing beside him was utterly dumbfounded. Its blazing blue eye sockets widened, and its bony jaw seemed about to drop to the ground in extreme astonishment at its master's insane choice.
The skeleton warrior sat huddled, its bony hands covering its face, letting out faint sniffles. Seeing this, Hyrkan frowned as he approached, his voice slightly annoyed. "What are you doing?" Without waiting for an answer, he slapped its head and spoke. "I'm not giving up on becoming a necromancer," Hyrkan growled, his words both an explanation and a command. "I'm trying to teach you. Even if I increase my mana and intelligence now, it won't significantly affect my playstyle. Conversely, if I increase my strength, I can teach you all the skills I had at my peak. Right now, I'm betting my life on your growth." The light in the skeleton's eye sockets seemed to glow brighter as it silently listened to its master's every word. Perhaps realizing his overly serious demeanor, Hyrkan blushed slightly, then softened his voice and gently patted the skeleton's shoulder. A shimmering drop of green light, like a tear, slowly rolled out from its eye socket. Anyway, you just need to focus on training, Hyrkan said, his voice now more relieved. He smiled confidently, giving a thumbs up. After all, there are still other ways to compensate for missing stats. The scene then shifted to a bustling road under the morning sun. Ahead stood a large building with ancient architecture, featuring a sign that clearly read Raid Association, Figus Castle Branch.
In the dim light of the inn, a quest card shimmered with a promising glow, making Hyrkan quietly exclaim to himself, "A brand new quest!" However, the surrounding scene was utterly chaotic. A crowd of players were frantically jostling and pushing each other in front of the quest board. "Get out of the way, that's mine," one person yelled. Another retorted, "Dream on. I've been waiting since yesterday." Amidst the noisy scene, Hyrkan just stood with his arms crossed, an indifferent half-smile on his lips. He thought to himself, quests of this level are usually nothing great, but everyone's too eager, probably because they're all beginners. Detaching himself from the boisterous crowd, Hyrkan leisurely approached the quest giver's counter, an old man with a flowing white beard and a scar across his eye. He pulled his hood down slightly, revealing his sharp eyes, and then spoke. "I'd also like to take a quest. May I see the list?" The elderly man looked up in surprise, glanced at Hyrkan, then back down at the cards left on the table. He crossed his arms, his voice slightly skeptical. "All right, but all the quests here are quite tough. No one wants to take them. Are you confident?" Hyrkan bent down, carefully examining the discarded cards. He rested his chin in his hand, mumbling to himself, "It's true, they're all useless things. However, this is the time."
Hyrkan sported a self-satisfied smile, his spiky silver hair gently swaying. In his hand was an old-looking quest card. Found it, he thought to himself, a glint of triumph in his eyes. His gaze fixated on a specific quest on the bulletin board, one that seemed overlooked by everyone: exterminate all monsters near Bima Mountain. The requirement was to clear the monsters from the Bima Mountain cave for a meager reward of only 10 gold. Clearly, this was just a trivial low-level quest. At the quest counter, the NPC looked at Hyrkan with suspicion. "Are you sure you want to take this quest? It's just a low-level quest with a paltry reward of only 10 gold. Without a moment's hesitation, Hyrkan replied concisely but firmly, "Yes." Immediately, a blue system window popped up in front of him confirming, "You have accepted a new quest." With a cold and calculating smile, Hyrkan mused over his plan, a cunning glint in his eyes. "Just by completing this seemingly boring quest before reaching level 15, I can obtain a super rare title called Prospect. You ask what's so good about it?"
Hyrkan pondered deeply. Possessing a title will help increase my stats. He scrolled through mundane titles like Amateur Mage, Despised by the Lamenting Wolves, or Apprentice Alchemist. They offered only negligible benefits, adding an insignificant 1 or 2 points of mana or intelligence, and especially this Prospect title. A mystical purple energy suddenly erupted fiercely around Hyrkan. His eyes gleamed as the power spread throughout his body. This title was unlike the others. It increases your stats by a percentage. A sharp, ambitious smile appeared on his face. Hyrkan clenched his fist, feeling the surging latent power. In other words, it will kickstart my career to become an overwhelmingly powerful character. Breaking free from his thoughts, he declared decisively, "All right." A resolute footstep echoed on the wooden floor, signaling a decision had been made. Now, Hyrkan stood under the bright sunlight of a city street. He looked around with confidence and readiness, then proclaimed, "Let's start with the equipment." The scene then shifted to a distant, rugged mountainous region known as the Bima Mountains. Gigantic, time-worn rock pillars soared into the clear sky, foreshadowing a challenging adventure that awaited ahead.
However, Hyrkan's face darkened and extreme rage flared in his eyes. He stood frozen in the grass, his whole body trembling as he looked down at his ridiculous outfit, a bizarre combination of a colorful clown suit and the pink hooded hat with long floppy rabbit ears. Even the shoes he wore were shaped like monstrous claws. He trudged into a gloomy forest where sunlight struggled to penetrate the dense foliage. Crows incessantly cawed, "caw, caw," circling above his head and brazenly perching on his shoulders as if mocking his pathetic appearance. Finally, unable to endure the humiliation any longer, a silent, furious scream erupted in his mind. Damn it! The reason for this misery became clear. He recalled the moment he tried to buy decent leather armor, but the system window coldly displayed the message, "insufficient funds." Hyrkan bitterly thought, After buying gear for the skeleton, I didn't have enough money left, so I just had to buy whatever I could, which led to this. After a moment of despair, a flame of determination ignited within him. Hyrkan sprang up, his face etched with resolve, despite the silly rabbit ears flopping on his head. He gritted his teeth and made up his mind. Alright, I just need to complete the quest quickly to get new gear first.
I'll deal with this as quickly as possible. Hyrkan's voice echoed resolutely through the dense forest. He shot forward like an arrow, his oddly dressed figure gliding past the tightly packed trees. His speed blurred the surroundings, leaving only the distant path ahead. Suddenly he stopped. An unusual silence enveloped the area. His gaze fell upon the ground, where fresh bloodstains, not yet dry, were splattered. A blood-stained hand tremblingly reached out from the bushes, twitching in pain. Lying in the mud, a severely wounded man looked up with vacant eyes, his breath ragged. He gasped in despair, "Help me, please." Just then, a chilling, eerie cackle began to echo from the shadows of the thickets. From the darkness, 3 figures slowly emerged, each bearing a cruel smile. Their eyes gleamed with sadistic pleasure as they witnessed the victim's pain. The clear blue sky glittered with square data fragments, signaling a wondrous virtual world. Beneath the dense forest canopy, sunlight filtered through, creating a picturesque scene. "Finally, we're here!" Malty shouted excitedly. He puffed out his chest, hands on his hips, a smug look on his face. "I, Malty, will begin my journey at Mount Bhima. Only level 11 yet. I must really have a knack for this game, huh?" Malty stroked his chin, a self-satisfied smile on his lips. What can I do? At this rate, I might become a ranked player." Just as Malty was lost in his own delusions, a desperate cry for help echoed from deep within the forest, shattering his self-satisfaction. Suddenly, a desperate scream rang out. "Is anyone there? Help! Please, my friend is injured. Please save us." Startled, Malty spun around. "What?" He quickly ran towards the sound. As he got closer, he saw a horrifying sight, a player kneeling beside a motionless teammate lying in a pool of blood. Malty asked as he approached, "What happened?" The other player looked up, his voice trembling and panicked. "We were attacked by an unseen monster. We struggled hard to escape, and we don't have any health potions." Before them, his companion lay motionless, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth, his breath shallow.
Although exhausted himself, Malty still managed to rummage through his inventory. He told the seemingly miserable group in front of him, "I have some here, please wait." Hearing this, the person wiped away a tear, their voice filled with emotion and gratitude. Thank you very much. We will definitely repay you." But as soon as the promise ended, a bloodshot, murderous gaze flashed in the darkness. One of the group members swung a spiky mace, engulfed in dark energy, then suddenly delivered a fatal blow to Malty, who was still bowing his head, completely unprepared. Crash! A terrifying impact echoed, fresh blood splattering everywhere. Malty collapsed onto the cold ground, blood gushing from the wound on his head. He could only let out a weak groan in his daze. Ugh, cuff? Looking down from above, the group of gamers had completely shed their false masks. Sinister smiles were clear on their faces. The one who had just expressed gratitude now spoke with a sarcastic tone. "Thank you. We'll make sure to make the most of these items."
Lying slumped on the damp ground, fresh blood dyeing a patch of grass red, Malty glared at his enemy with utter resentment. His breath was ragged, bitter words escaping his gritted teeth. "You tricked me, you coward!" His curses were met with a sarcastic tone from the silver-haired gamer. He looked down at Malty with contempt, a smug smile on his lips. "Hey, why say such unpleasant things? You're the fool for falling for it so easily." With that, his smile grew even more malicious. Without a moment's hesitation, he swung the blood-stained sword, delivering a fatal blow that ended Malty. A cold system notification appeared in midair. "Player, Malty, has died." Malty's body slowly dissolved into sparkling blue light particles and merged with the air, leaving the killer standing silently, admiring his achievement. Immediately after, another notification appeared. "Player's watch is dropping." From the blue light stream, his watch materialized and fell onto the blood-splattered ground. At this moment, his accomplices approached, surrounding the spoils with joyful expressions. One of the scam gamers laughed gleefully. "I told you, messing with newbies is always fun. Did you see his face just now?" Another in the group spoke up. "All right, guys,
With a savage grin, the gamer from the scam group licked his lips thirstily, his eyes gleaming with malice as he uttered, "Let's find the next prey." Dry leaves rustled down in the gloomy forest. From the shadows, savage growls echoed as two wolf-like monsters with eyes burning red like embers suddenly appeared. Facing them, a skeletal warrior stood firm, its body radiating cold blue magical energy, ready for battle. Behind it, Hyrkan's blurry figure emerged. Without hesitation, the two werewolf-like monsters darted forward, their fierce barks echoing through the air, bearing sharp fangs at the skeletal warrior. Witnessing the scene, Hyrkans merely smirked. A decisive snap of fingers rang out. Immediately he commanded, "Attack mode!"
From within the green smoke, the skeleton warrior appeared, its eye sockets blazing with murderous soul fire. Without a moment's hesitation, the skeleton warrior, with the new sword in hand, charged straight into the snarling pack of ancient tree wolves. The blade, enhanced by magic, carved deadly green streaks through the air. The faint whimpers of the monsters echoed as they were cut to pieces, their wooden bodies shattering under precise and ruthless sword strikes. In just a moment, the entire wolf pack was wiped out by overwhelming power. Observing the scene from afar, Hyrkan smirked with satisfaction. He thought to himself, now that it has a sword, an entire pack of wolves is nothing to it. Yes, prioritizing equipping the skeleton warrior first was absolutely the right decision. A powerful wave of emotions surged, and tears of happiness welling up in the corners of Hyrkan's eyes as he admired his achievement. He folded his arms, proud of his wise decision. A true gamer, he continued his thoughts and emotion, always cares more about utility than appearance.
In the gloomy forest, Hyrkan stood with his arms crossed, watching his skeleton warrior sitting on the ground, propping its chin with a sorrowful expression. In its naive mind, an image of a giant skeleton was tearfully feeling pity for its poor master. Seeing the strange sight, Hyrkan frowned and asked, "Hey, what are you thinking?" Without waiting for an answer, he sighed and turned to walk away, his tone somewhat impatient. "Sigh, if you're done, follow me. We need to level up quickly to clear this area." Hearing the command, the skeleton warrior immediately sprang up, hastily grabbed its sword, and clattered after its master. Suddenly, a sharp whoosh tore through the silent air. A streak of light flashed, and before anyone could react, an arrow flew straight into the middle of the skeleton warrior's forehead. Hyrkan instantly froze, his whole body rigid. Cold sweat trickled down his temples as he exclaimed in astonishment, "An arrow?" He quickly spun around, his sharp gaze sweeping towards where the arrow had come from. From a distance in the bushes, another player started in fright, hastily apologizing profusely. "Oh, so sorry." Both Hyrkan and the skeleton warrior, with the arrow still lodged in its skull, stood rooted to the spot, staring blankly at the unwitting attacker. A member of the scammer gamer group grabbed his accomplice by the collar, looking terrified. "From afar, I thought it was a monster." Another in the group quickly stammered, I'm truly sorry." Hyrkan, in his bizarre outfit, merely looked down coldly, letting out a "it's fine," which made the man look up blankly. For a moment, Hyrkan recalled his precious watch and mana potion being shattered under their heels. His gaze turned sharp, thinking, what kind of game are these guys playing? Suddenly, Hyrkan burst into hearty laughter. Beside him, the skeleton warrior also raised its fist, snapping an arrow to intimidate. A smile still on his lips, Hyrkan looked directly at the frightened group, his voice becoming laden with meaning. "I will forgive you if you can compensate me with a mana potion." The three scammer gamers immediately huddled together, whispering amongst themselves. One nervously spoke up, "Damn it, we don't have any potions either. What do we do now? How about this? Since your mana will automatically regenerate when you level up, can we help you level up instead of compensation?"
Hyrkan asked with some hesitation, "Is that okay?" Facing him, one of the scamming gamers waved his hand eagerly, a bright smile on his face. "Of course, it's our fault, isn't it? At least we should do that." However, hidden behind that friendly facade was a malicious thought growling in his mind. Suddenly, the surrounding space darkened. From within the dense bushes, a series of monsters with eyes glowing red like embers and jagged sharp teeth began to appear, surrounding the group. One of the scammers looked around with amusement and exclaimed, "Ah, it seems the monsters have appeared just in time." The burly, bearded man turned to Hyrkan, a smirk of self-satisfaction on his face, while his other companions chuckled slyly. "We'll beacon them. You just need to finish them off." Hyrkan replied curtly, Oh, yes. Secretly turning to his accomplice, one whispered with a sinister smile, "Remember what to do, right?" The other man also smirked slyly, replying concisely, "Yep."
He mumbled about his sinister plan. First, after drawing the monster's attention, I'll pretend to cast an attack buff for the group, then casually throw an energy ball at him as if by mistake. That confused fool will surely die instantly. As planned, a beam of purple light shot straight towards Hyrkan. Immediately, the wolf monster, roaring furiously, switched targets and charged directly at him with jaws wide open, full of sharp fangs. Hyrkan looked utterly panicked, raising both hands to cover his face and screaming frantically, "Ah!" Witnessing the scene, the group of scamming gamers couldn't hide their triumphant smiles, certain their plan had succeeded. However, the smiles on their faces quickly froze, replaced by looks of bewilderment, which then turned to extreme astonishment. As the dust cloud dissipated, Hyrkan still stood there completely unharmed. Beside him, a skeletal warrior silently sheathed its sword, while the wolf monster's corpse lay motionless at his feet. Hyrkan put his hands on his hips, looking at his bony companion with a reproachful expression, let out a sigh of relief, then said, "That was truly dangerous. Why can't you move a bit faster?" The entire group of scammers was petrified, unable to believe what was unfolding before their eyes.
Hyrkan flashed a bright smile, giving a thumbs up in approval. Right beside him, the skeleton warrior with glowing blue eyes also appeared extremely excited. "Ah, we're doing great. Keep it up," Hyrkan said cheerfully. Witnessing this scene, the scammer gamers were dumbfounded, their faces filled with confusion and anger. One of them gritted his teeth and thought, "What the hell? Why is his summon so strong? Is his level higher than it seems? If so, let's lure more monsters towards him." After a discussion, they quickly put their plan into action. A horde of fierce monsters was lured over, simultaneously rushing towards Hyrkan. The young man feigned panic, letting out a desperate scream. "Ah!" Seizing the opportunity, the burly gamer with a full beard stealthily approached from behind. An evil thought echoed in his mind. Once he's distracted, we'll take him down. With that thought, he raised his spiky mace high and slung a devastating blow aimed directly at Hyrkan's nape. A red aura enveloped the weapon, signaling a powerful attack about to land. The scammer's face stretched into a sinister grin as he put all his strength into the strike.
The smug look on the burly scammer gamer's face instantly twisted into utter astonishment. "What?" he roared, sweat pouring as he realized his insidious attack had missed its mark. One of his teammates, standing elsewhere, also couldn't believe his eyes, thinking he dodged it. In a flash, Hyrkan darted past the enemy with astonishing speed. A cold blue streak of light flashed, and immediately after, fresh blood spewed from the burly gamer's back as an unseen force ripped through his body. In the chaotic forest, another member of the scammer group stood frozen, watching their comrades fall one by one to a flickering phantom. "What?" he stammered, terror clearly etched on his face. At the epicenter of the carnage, Hyrkan stood firm, his sharp gaze devoid of emotion. He stomped his foot down. "Skeleton," he commanded in a deep, powerful voice. Instantly, the ground beneath Hyrkan's feet cracked open. A mystical blue light surged from the earth, and a skeletal warrior rose. Its empty eye sockets blazed with blue soul flames, ready to sow terror at its master's command.
The skeleton warrior, longsword in hand, shot forward like an arrow. Facing it, two scamming gamers stood frozen, their faces deadened with terror. Realizing death was imminent, one of them frantically raised a hand, stammering in desperation, "Wait, we can talk." But his plea dissolved into the air. Without a moment's hesitation, the skeleton warrior swung its sword. A sharp blue streak of light swept through, piercing both scammers with a chilling slash. Screams of pain and horror shattered in the air. Fresh blood splattered as their bodies were violently flung high by a tremendous force, then flopped onto the cold ground like two severed puppets. Witnessing the scene from afar, Hyrkan's blue eyes gleamed with cold indifference. He slowly approached, his hand tightening around the sword hilt. Standing before the two crumpled corpses on the ground, Hyrkan spoke in a low, husky voice filled with contempt. "I know bastards like you too well. You're the kind who backstab those who trust you and steal everything they have." With that, he turned and along with his skeleton warrior quietly walked away, leaving behind those who had paid the price for their deceit. His footsteps faded into the silence of the forest.
Standing tall over a pool of blood, Hyrkan coldly stared down at the dying scammer at his feet. "If it were the old me," he said monotonously, "your trick might have worked. The scammer's face turned ashen, filled with utter horror as death drew near. He stammered a plea, his voice hoarse with fear. Wait, I'll give you items. I'm sorry, so please. No, I'm the one who should apologize. Hyrkan indifferently cut him off, all pity completely gone from his eyes. Without a moment's hesitation, he raised his dagger high. The sharp blade gleamed in the light, reflecting Hyrkan's resolute and cold face. I no longer trust humans. Slash. The blade plunged down, ending the scammer's life in a blink. Instantly, a blue system notification panel appeared in midair. Player, Ralph, has died. 8 ownerless watches have dropped. Staring at the displayed number, Hyrkan was stunned. He softly mumbled in a mix of surprise and disgust. 8 of them? This bastard is truly insane.
Hyrkan stood over the data-fragmented remains of a fraudulent gamer, a smug yet mischievous smile on his face. Seeing the defeated scattered around, he decided this spoils of war couldn't be wasted. Well, since things have turned out this way, I'll make good use of them. Let's start with my clothes first, Hyrkan mumbled, a gleam of amusement in his eyes. Noticing his subordinate's adorably playful demeanor, Hyrkan turned to it with a gentle, teasing tone. My precious skeleton, do you want to take something for yourself? Hyrkan's hand pressed against the top of the skeletal warrior's head, and a radiant turquoise energy slowly spread, seeping deep inside. The magical light enveloped the skeleton, healing the wound on its head. It's done. The skeletal warrior stood tall, raising the sword in its hand as if taking an oath. Its entire body shimmered under the aura, signaling a more powerful rebirth. In the dense forest, the skeletal warrior stood before Hyrkan. Its cheeks were oddly flushed, its eyes sparkling with admiration and joy, seemingly very pleased with its new appearance. Hyrkan looked at its form and asked, "You like it that much? Appearance isn't important when playing games. What's important is what's on the inside." The skeletal warrior stood bewildered in the forest, completely unaware of what Hyrkan was saying.
With a mischievous smile, Hyrkan eagerly turned to the skeleton warrior standing beside him, its eyes gleaming with a bewildered blue light. He couldn't hide the excitement in his voice. Their war clocks really hit the jackpot. Selling the war clocks obtained from other players truly unlocked a treasure trove. Each clock had a chance to drop a random item from its former owner's inventory, and luck smiled upon Hyrkan. From rare equipment like the Black Goblin pants that increased mana and intelligence, the powerful ancient spirit sword, to valuable skill books radiating a deep purple magical aura like the demonic curse, and of course, sparkling gold coins raining down. Hyrkan could no longer hold back, throwing his head back and laughing heartily amidst the rain of gold. He spread his arms wide, embracing the unexpected wealth. Muhaha! This is what you truly call hitting the jackpot. Thanks to that enormous fortune, he was able to achieve his goal. In the quiet forest, Hyrkan smiled contentedly, a radiant blue energy mask converging in his palm. Thanks to that, I was able to create this. The energy mask gradually condensed, quickly forming a familiar object. Faster than expected. In an instant, a perfectly formed bone haho mask with strange patterns appeared, resting neatly in Hyrkan's palm.
In the serene quiet of the forest, Hyrkan subtly smiled, a calculating grin. From now on, I'll start documenting my gameplay, and creating a good image for that purpose is very important. His words were cut short by a painfully familiar voice from the past. I told you, creating an identity is very important. Memories flooded back, sharp as a cut. He saw his past self sitting beside his old comrade, face radiant with enthusiasm. Holding up a haho mask, he excitedly proposed, "Everyone in the guild wears haho masks. We'll become famous. Just watch. All right, let's name our guild Haho Mask." Returning to reality, the smile had vanished, replaced by a cold, pensive expression. He looked down at the mask in his hand, a completely different creation. I even thought of using a completely different identity. However, a spectral blue energy suddenly flared from the mask, its ethereal flames dancing wildly, transforming it into the shape of a grotesque skull, exuding an intimidating aura. I will not let others steal what belongs to me ever again. His hand tightened around the glowing Hade mask. I will use this.
Hyrkan's lips curved into a sharp, resolute smile. He told himself this was the time to prove he was right. Amidst the gloomy, fog-shrouded forest, Hyrkan commanded his companion, "Let's go, skeleton." As they neared their target, he raised a hand to adjust his Hade mask. A mesmerizing blue energy flared around him, and his eyes behind the mask glowed a deadly red. Standing right behind him, the skeletal warrior was also ready for battle, its eye sockets flashing with deep blue light. Before them lay a magnificent yet desolate sight, colossal, jagged rock pillars reaching straight for the sky. Right at a towering rock mountain, a swirling blue spatial gate radiated an ethereal light, marking the dungeon entrance. Without a moment's hesitation, Hyrkan and the skeletal warrior stepped directly into the energy vortex. A system notification appeared as soon as they passed through. "You have entered Bima Mountain Cave Dungeon." Inside, the dark and damp space of a rock cave enveloped them. Hyrkan's footsteps echoed in the silence, each step filled with caution. He walked while observing his surroundings, his mind quickly analyzing the situation. "I think the blue werewolf will appear in this cave dungeon," he mumbled.
Inside the dark, dusty dungeon, Hyrkan narrowed his eyes, a confident, cold smile appearing beneath his Hade mask. He thought to himself, this isn't an easy dungeon, but with better equipment than I currently have, I'm sure I'll get through it. The goal is to finish in 10 minutes. Let's go. With that, he shot forward like an arrow, his black cloak billowing in the air. Right behind him, his loyal skeletal warrior swiftly followed its master, its ghostly blue eyes glowing brightly in the darkness. A few hours later, a loud crash shattered the silence. Hyrkan froze, his silver hair standing on end, his eyes wide with astonishment. He had unknowingly taken off his mask, revealing a face of extreme bewilderment as he looked around the empty cavern. He yelled in confusion, "Why are there no monsters at all?" The vast space only answered him with a deathly silence. Hyrkan ran a hand through his hair, muttering in despair, "This is insane. If someone had cleared this dungeon, there should have been a notification. Could it be a game bug?" Suddenly, he felt a slight movement behind him. Hyrkan spun around, veins bulging on his forehead, his eyes blazing as he glared at his subordinate. He growled, "What in the world are you doing?"
Hyrkan suddenly stopped, his eyes behind the Hade mask widening, a strong sense of unease rising within him. "Wait," he whispered, his voice tense. Simultaneously, the skeletal warrior beside him also assumed a wary stance. The ground beneath their feet began to tremble slightly, and a dark purple magic circle appeared, emitting an eerie glow. Hyrkan exclaimed in surprise, "This is..." Before he could finish, energy erupted violently. A massive, deep purple magical vortex surged from the ground, swirling furiously and roaring like a caged beast. The blinding purple light consumed the surrounding space, casting the shadows of Hyrkan and the skeletal warrior onto the cliff face, making them dance wildly. At the heart of the energy storm, a cold blue system message appeared, its text glowing brightly. "You have discovered an instant dungeon, the stage. Do you wish to enter?" The powerful magical current made Hyrkan stumble and fall to the ground. He let out a sigh, finally understanding the oddity of this dungeon. No wonder there were no monsters at all. This was an instant dungeon. These are one-time dungeons that appear randomly within other dungeons. When activated, the regular dungeon becomes completely empty until the instant dungeon is completed. Their difficulty is much higher than normal, but the rewards received are, consequently, many times more appealing. Hyrkan stared at the energy vortex, a cold bead of sweat trickling down his temple. Opportunity and danger walked hand in hand. The problem was...
Standing at the threshold of a challenge where failure meant death, Hyrkan pondered, his mind in turmoil. He turned to his skeletal companion, his voice filled with hesitation. "Logically, I should give up. If I die, I won't be able to play for 2 days. It's better to quit and do other quests." But then, a flash of determination ignited in his green eyes. His hesitation vanished, replaced by an unyielding, steely will. The moment he made his decision, a cold system message appeared before his eyes. "You have entered the stage." Instantly, a mystical purple energy surged intensely, enveloping Hyrkan and the skeletal warrior. Amidst the magical vortex, his face glowed with resolute conviction. "I just need to get through this." He decisively raised his hand, the familiar Ha-Ho mask covering half his face, transforming him back into the notorious hero slayer. When the light faded, a vast and desolate space appeared. Hyrkan and his skeletal warrior found themselves standing isolated in the middle of a colossal, ruined Roman amphitheater. Shattered stone seats stretched high, silent as mute witnesses to countless bloody battles of the past. The skeletal warrior curiously looked around. Hyrkan gazed up at the terrifyingly magnificent scene and exclaimed, "Is this an arena? It looks pretty daunting. Wonder what will appear here."
Beneath Hyrkan's feet, a torrent of dark energy surged violently. His face was tense, hidden behind the Hade mask as he gritted out each word. From the shadows, a colossal creature arose. Its massive body was covered in shaggy ash-gray fur, with eyes glowing red like burning embers. It stood towering amidst the desolate ruins, exhaling heavy breaths, its gaze fixed on Hyrkan and the skeleton warrior below. The monster lifted its head, letting out a sky-shattering roar, revealing jagged fangs and a mysterious glowing red seal on its forehead. A notification window appeared before Hyrkan, confirming the enemy's identity. Fallen werewolf, level, ? Hyrkan's eyes widened in astonishment. He murmured in confusion, "Fallen? Why would something like this appear here?" Before he could finish his words, the werewolf lunged forward like a blurry black shadow. With horrifying speed, its razor-sharp claws traced a vivid red streak through the air. Instantly, Hyrkan barely managed to raise his sword to parry its claws, to Skeleton's surprise.
A world-shattering crash echoed as Hyrkan was thrown straight into the stone wall, causing it to shatter into pieces. He let out a faint, painful ugh. Not far away, amidst the swirling dust, the loyal skeletal warrior turned around with a start. It gripped its sword hilt tightly, its eye sockets glowing with a cold blue light, and a growl emanated from its dry jaws. However, contrary to expectations, a phut escaped Hyrkan's lips, quickly bursting into a mad cackle, echoing throughout the ruins. He propped himself up with his sword from the rubble, his eyes gleaming with extreme excitement as he realized something. Hyrkan looked towards his skeleton warrior, his voice filled with exhilaration. "Why am I so lucky today? These corrupted monsters are related to the main quest." Hyrkan dusted off his clothes, his expression turning sharp and decisive. He stared intently forward, where the enemy was hiding, then commanded, "Hey, skeleton, if we don't kill it..."
With a cruel smile hidden behind the Hankari mask, an icy voice resonated through the chaotic air. "No dinner tonight." The skeleton with eerie blue eyes suddenly turned. Without hesitation, it forcefully swung the greatsword in its hand and held it firmly, ready to serve as a jumping platform for its master. The unexpected impact launched Hyrkan into the air, his body soaring like a cannonball over the stunned monster's head. As he reached the apex of his flight, a mystical purple energy burst forth, enveloping his body. From within that glow, the giant wolf tilted its head skyward and let out an earth-shattering roar. Grrrr! Immediately after the commanding roar, a powerful and ancient command echoed from Hyrkan's beast form: "Inflict a curse."
A dark, deep violet energy began to gather in Hyrkan's palm, emitting low, menacing sounds. Its eerie light reflected on his cold, resolute face, hidden behind the Hade mask. With a sharp gaze, he condensed his magic to its limit before unleashing it. "Demonic curse," he growled. The dark energy instantly exploded, transforming into a massive, purple-cleaving attack. The huge werewolf monster, with its glowing red third eye on its forehead, froze for a moment before letting out an angry roar. It couldn't dodge in time. The curse struck its massive body. Streams of malevolent energy like venomous snakes coiled tightly, gnawing away at the monster's power. Knocked backward onto the barren ground, it stumbled and then let out a deafening shriek of agony. Fresh blood sprayed from its shoulder, mixing with the purple smoke corroding its body. While the monster was still screaming in pain, Hyrkan was already in position for the next attack. A cold system notification appeared, confirming the effectiveness of the recent attack. The demonic curse skill had been activated. All of the target's stats would be reduced by 10%.
The giant wolf let out a sky-shattering roar, its body writhing in a wave of dark purple energy. Standing opposite the monster, Hyrkan calmly observed his results, a smirk flashing across his face. This demon's curse, not bad for a first use. However, the pain only seemed to further provoke the beast's wild instincts. It snarled, its ash-gray fur beginning to glow in a bloody red aura. Breaking free from the curse's grip, the wolf with bloodshot eyes and a glowing mark on its forehead charged directly at Hyrkan, its furious roar shaking the ground. "Oh?" Hyrkan subtly raised an eyebrow, a little surprised. Immediately, a system notification appeared before him. "Fallen werewolf has entered a state of fury. All status effects have been nullified." Understanding the situation, Hyrkan pulled up his hood, a chilling smile reappearing on his lips. He calmly thought, I guess this wouldn't be an instant dungeon if it were that easy. I was going to save this for later, but perhaps now's the time to try it. As he finished speaking, his eyes became resolute. Slot, Hyrkan commanded in a low voice, then decisively called out, Activate. Immediately, a device on his wrist glowed with a mystical blue light. Through the Haho mask, Hyrkan's eyes also blazed a menacing red, signaling that a true battle had only just begun.
A surge of dark energy imbued with an enchanting blue hue suddenly erupted from Hyrkan, swirling violently like a storm. The ground beneath him trembled and cracked as a colossal energy vortex formed, its core a dazzling spear of blue light. From the heart of the maelstrom, pieces of pitch-black armor began to materialize. They zipped through the air, fitting onto his body one by one with sharp, clanging sounds. First the arm guards, then the pauldrons, and finally his entire form was encased in majestic battle armor, etched with mystical blue patterns. Blue flames flared fiercely around Hyrkan, illuminating the haughty mask that had just appeared on his face. His eyes behind the mask glowed brightly, and an arrogant, belligerent smile formed. He gripped the sword in his hand, feeling the power surging throughout his body. Fully encased in the gleaming armor, Hyrkan subtly curled his lip beneath the mask, his voice brimming with excitement. Excellent! Let's begin. In the world of Warlord, there's a unique feature called Slot On. When a player activates this skill, they are temporarily granted power drawn from the Warlord world itself, allowing them to manifest into an enhanced form. This form varies greatly depending on each player, from a fiery warrior with demon horns, an elegant female commander, to the shadowy figure behind Hyrkan's chilling smile. Returning to the battle between Hyrkan and the wolf, suddenly a stream of dark blue energy erupted, roaring and swirling violently around Hyrkan. Within the energy vortex, a pitch-black, angular armor gradually materialized, encasing his body. The familiar Haho mask now glowed eerily, its lines seemingly animated by a mysterious blue light. This is what most players powerfully refer to as overdrive mode.
Enchanting azure flames fiercely blazed around Hyrkan's body, reflecting in his bright eyes behind the Hade mask. A defiant smile appeared on his lips as he subtly beckoned with a gauntleted finger, his challenging voice ringing out, "Come on in." In response to the provocation, a colossal ghost wolf roared an earth-shattering sound. Its mouth gaped wide to its ears, revealing jagged, razor-sharp fangs and a throat as deep as an abyss. Without a hint of hesitation, the monstrous creature lunged, its shadow engulfing Hyrkan's small figure. But the young man did not waver. He stomped his foot down, launching himself into the air like an arrow to directly confront the beast. The ghost wolf, with eyes glowing crimson with killing intent, simultaneously swung his gigantic claws. Deadly red streaks tore through the air, forming a dense web of attacks. Amidst the storm of blows, Hyrkan spun in midair, his movements unbelievably swift, gracefully weaving through every gap in the assault. He somersaulted over one slash, then used the monster's own body as a pivot to dodge another blow, turning their furious attack into a stage for his own agility. In a fleeting moment, as if finding an opening, the ghost wolf gathered all its strength and lunged to seize Hyrkan. A blinding explosion erupted at the point of impact, its terrifying power shattering the ground beneath into pieces.
Hyrkan nimbly dodged, crouching and sliding away, his toes digging hard into the dusty ground, readying himself. Almost instantly, a surge of fiery red dark energy struck the spot he had just vacated, its terrifying power causing the ground to crack and crumble. Concealed in the air after his narrow escape, Hyrkan coldly assessed the situation. He thought to himself, it truly is a boss monster. Speed, strength, everything is just too overwhelming. If it hits me 4 times? No, just 3 hits and I'm done for. Facing him, the colossal beast let out an earth-shattering roar. Its entire body was a mass of bulging muscles beneath its jet-black fur. Its 3 bloodshot eyes on its head glowed with ferocity, and the dark red energy emanating from its body was like an infernal flame. Yet, despite this menace, a chillingly sharp smile spread across Hyrkan's lips. A brilliant blue aura suddenly erupted from his body, dispelling the suffocating atmosphere. Hyrkan charged straight towards the monster like a blue arrow, energy swirling around him to form a sharp blade.
The monster's agonizing roar echoed through the space, shaking the ground violently. Amidst the desolate scene, Hyrkan stood firm, dark wings radiating a gloomy blue energy that enveloped his body. He smirked, an excited and arrogant smile appearing from behind his mask. This is what makes the game interesting, isn't it? Before the words had even finished, the smile on Hyrkan's lips vanished, replaced by an expression of extreme astonishment. The monster didn't fall. Instead, it was transforming. Its body swelled rapidly, a dense darkness enveloping it, turning it into a massive, many times more ferocious entity. A thunderous crash echoed as its colossal claw slammed down, pulverizing the ground and flinging Hyrkan away like a leaf. Thrown a distance, Hyrkan stumbled upon landing, his eyes still wide with surprise. He exclaimed in bewilderment, "Whoa? Oh, right, this is its berserk state." He sighed softly, briefly covering his face in a mix of embarrassment and amusement at his own forgetfulness. I completely forgot. Before him, the beast had completed its transformation. Now it was a colossal mass of shadow, vaguely shaped like a ferocious wolf with eyes glowing red like burning embers, ready to tear everything apart. Despite the imminent danger, Hyrkan stood up straight, his expression calm again, even somewhat defiant. He pointed at the monster and called out, "Hey!"
Hyrkan still wore a chilling smile. His eyes gleamed with a mystical blue light as he looked up, where a familiar figure was hurtling down from the sky. "Perhaps you've also forgotten something," Hyrkan spoke, his tone full of challenge. Instantly, from above, the skeleton warrior with glowing eye sockets swooped down. The werewolf monster, having just triumphed, flinched in terror upon sensing deadly peril from behind. It had no time to react as the skeleton warrior, in a flash, swung its longsword to form a fatal arc of blue light. At that very moment, Hyrkan sprang up, dust swirling around him, and roared his command, "Skeleton, execute the move we practiced." Hearing the order, the skeleton warrior tightened its grip on the sword hilt, ready for the coordinated attack. The monster spun round, its 3 bloodshot eyes bulging, letting out a thunderous roar filled with anger and shock. Simultaneously, Hyrkan and his skeleton warrior landed directly in front of it, forming a perfect pincer movement.
In the decisive moment, Hyrkan and his skeleton warrior simultaneously charged from below. The gigantic werewolf, already on the offensive, had no time to react to the sudden coordinated attack. A series of bright blue energy slashes, interwoven like a storm of sword energy, tore through the monster's powerful body. Fresh blood splattered, dyeing a whole area of space red, painting a brutal scene of death. The monster let out a final roar of immense pain before its heavy body collapsed onto the dusty ground. Below, Hyrkan and the skeleton warrior stood firm without a single scratch on them. A clear "ting" sound rang out, and a blue system notification appeared before Hyrkan's eyes. "You have hunted the werewolf." Immediately after, another notification appeared. "Slot on deactivated." Eerie black smoke began to pour out from the haughty mask and armor, gradually dissipating into the air. The disguise vanished, revealing Hyrkan's true face beneath the hood. He smirked with utter self-satisfaction, his cold eyes gleaming with absolute contentment at the recent victory. Not bad.
A brilliant golden light erupted, signaling the end of the battle in Bima Mountain Cave. As the light faded, a series of familiar ting sounds rang out, and system notification windows continuously appeared before Hyrkan's eyes. Skeleton Warrior has defeated a very powerful monster. Bone Shard skill has increased to rank E. Standing nearby, Skeleton also seemed to sense the change, its eye sockets flashing with excited blue light. A shower of rewards began to pour down. You received 20,865 gold. You received werewolf skull. You received werewolf leather. Hyrkan grinned with satisfaction, hands casually on his hips, while the skeleton soldier behind him raised its arms in celebration. He exclaimed gleefully, "The dungeon rewards are indeed quite generous." But the biggest surprise was still ahead. Another notification, distinctly separate from the previous ones, ceremoniously appeared. "You have received Necklace of the Fallen Hunter." Before him, a beautiful necklace floated in midair. The pendant was a mystical purple crystal with a strange eye carved inside, radiating an eerie glow. The item information panel confirmed its extraordinary value, an unique chronicle item, increasing all stats by 18 points and requiring the title Fallen Hunter for use. Hyrkan froze, his eyes wide in astonishment. He couldn't believe his luck, his voice trembling. A unique chronicle item? Even if it's untradeable, it's still on a much higher level than regular unique items.
Hyrkan froze. A cold drop of sweat began to trickle down his temple. "Wait," he mumbled, an unbelievable thought suddenly flashing through his mind. "Fallon Hunter? Could it be?" Ding! A system sound rang out, and a blue notification window appeared before him. 3 new titles have been recorded. Below it were 3 empty slots hovering, awaiting revelation. The first slot lit up, displaying the text, "Promising Recruit, Int plus 3%, Magic plus 3%. Hyrkan nodded slightly. "Promising Recruit, that's exactly what I was aiming for initially." Immediately after, the second slot also filled. Hero Challenger, Stamina plus 3. He frowned and thought, so the entire hero title series also appears here? Well, I cleared the dungeon solo, so it makes sense. Ding! The sharp sound rang out again as the third and final slot began to glow. Hyrkan held his breath, but when the text, "Fallen Hunter," appeared, he was completely stunned, only a huge question mark remaining in his mind. "Fallon Hunter?" Hyrkan exclaimed in astonishment, his eyes wide in disbelief. "That's the opening title for the first chapter of the main quest? Fallen Count?" His mind was immediately drawn into another vision. The main quest. In a world submerged in fire and ashes, a giant dragon with blazing red eyes roared in anger. Standing before it was a mysterious count with an eye emitting an eerie red light and a malevolent smile. A flood of massive memories rushed back, for this was the core plotline, the very backbone that created the entire universe of Warlord.
Because the reward was so extraordinary, any player wanted to participate at all costs. That was Warlord's trump card. In the dark space of the game, Hyrkan trembled, his mind shaken. He thought to himself, in my previous life, I had just barely gotten past the 4th chapter, but now I've unlocked this? This isn't just luck anymore. I've hit the jackpot. A radiant, wildly excited smile bloomed on Hyrkan's face. The surging feeling of extreme joy made him unable to restrain himself any longer, and he yelled, "Lock out!" The virtual world vanished, making way for the real-life scene. The sunset sky was painted a soft pink-orange, casting shadows on a quiet apartment building. In a dark room, lit only by the light from the computer screen, Jaehyun sat motionless. On the screen was a paused live news broadcast. A character in modern white armor was eloquently declaring, "The Hydra Guild has officially entered the final chapter of the Corrupted Count scenario. Our goal is to complete it within 3 months." Jaehyun's hand holding the mouse had just pressed the pause button. He silently looked at the screen, the other hand holding a cup, lost in deep thought.
Tears streamed down Jaehyun's face, mixing with the dried blood at the corner of his mouth. "What kind of jackpot is this?" he thought bitterly. Thud! He slammed his hand on the desk in despair, the screen's blue light casting on his indignant face. Someone has already reached the final chapter of the Corrupt Count? If I jump in now, I won't get anything. Damn it, what a waste! Head bowed on the cold table, Jaehyun let out a long sigh, a sense of failure overwhelming him. Maybe I should skip this turn and aim for the next chapter? But then a flicker of thought sparked in his mind. Wait a minute. Jaehyun's eyes widened, a daring idea suddenly emerging. What if this is an opportunity for me? He sprang up, lunging towards the computer screen with renewed energy. His eyes shone brightly, fixed on the screen. Jaehyun mumbled, his voice full of determination. Right now, the whole world is focusing its attention on the Corrupt Count, with immense interest. This is Warlord's first main quest, and it's about to be completed. What if a video related to the Corrupt Count is released right now? His finger moved decisively, placing it on the mouse. Click. The mouse cursor pressed the play button on a video player, initiating a plan known only to him.
In Jaehyun's mind, the vision of wealth and fame shone brightly. Millions of views would pour in, bringing with them a shower of money and the recognition he so longed for. Sitting in front of his computer screen in the dark room, Jaehyun's eyes gleamed with a determined red light. He muttered with a confident smile, "Luckily, I recorded the entire gameplay. I'll have someone edit it and upload it directly to YouTube. Editing is key. I can't entrust it to just anyone. So it has to be that person, the one known as the Edit Saint in my previous life." With that thought, he quickly drafted an email and hit send. In another room, amidst a clutter of instant noodle cups and snack wrappers, Romani was eating noodles while browsing her phone. Suddenly, the phone on the table vibrated, signaling a new email. She picked it up to read, her brows slightly furrowed. Video editing request for a dungeon clear? Hyrkan, level 15? Her voice was full of skepticism as she read the sender's level.
In the dimly lit room, illuminated only by her phone screen, Romani leaned back in her chair, her eyes narrowed in suspicion. A sarcastic smile played on her lips as she scrolled through a new video. What kind of exciting dungeon-clearing video could a level 15 player possibly make? Probably just some rich newbie trying to show off on social media, right? However, as the images on the screen continued to play, her ridicule gradually faded. Romani's eyes behind her large round glasses widened, her suspicion quickly replaced by a flicker of astonishment. She unconsciously sat up straight. Bang! The chair was pushed back forcefully as Romani sprang from her seat, leaning forward, her hands pressing firmly against the table. She stared intently at the small screen, unwilling to miss a single moment. Her breath seemed to catch, then a whisper escaped her parted lips in stunned awe. "I found it." Immediately, the dim space around her seemed to brighten. A radiant, almost wild smile blossomed on Romani's face. Her eyes sparkled like stars, reflecting a powerful inspiration that had just ignited. She held up her phone like a treasure, her voice ringing out in exhilaration. "My muse!" Meanwhile, elsewhere, the city at night stretched out, sparkling like an artificial galaxy with countless skyscrapers. Inside a luxurious high-rise room, a powerful woman stood with her back to the room, silently gazing at the magnificent view through a massive glass window. The faint blue light from the tablet in her hand cast a glow on her figure, next to a waiting glass of red wine. She then called out loudly, "Director."
Behind the vast, cold-toned room, a man in a neat suit rushed forward, a hint of worry on his face. "Madam, did you call for me?" Sirre didn't turn around. Her voice rang out, steady but tinged with interest. "A video related to the degenerate count has just been uploaded. How interesting. A level 15 player single-handedly defeated a degenerate werewolf." The man flinched slightly as he looked at the tablet in his hand. "Ah, that video," he stammered before quickly regaining his professional composure, pushing up his glasses. "Our team has also checked it, but the degenerate werewolf's level was quite low, so there's no need to pay attention to it, madam." His explanation was cut short by a simple yet weighty statement. "I like it." A faint smile bloomed on Sirre's luscious red lips, a smile that conveyed absolute delight and determination. "I want that." Her voice turned sharp, an undeniable command. Her gaze lowered, exuding the aura of a ruler. "Bring it to me."
In the cold, calculated business world, Sirre is a name at the peak of power. As the heiress of Thunder Group and the world's top businesswoman, her every gesture exudes majesty and sharpness. Under soft light, her calm eyes held deep calculation. Her flowing black hair highlighted her proud face. But her power isn't confined to luxurious boardrooms. When the real world falls silent, another persona emerges in Warlord's virtual realm. There, she bears a different moniker, a living legend. The space around her transforms, dissolving into a shimmering digital matrix. Her calm eyes now blaze with brilliant blue light, like two pure lightning bolts. This is no longer Sirre, the corporate heiress. This is Sirre, the Thunder Queen, absolute ruler of the game world. Her gaze flashes with unparalleled might, a true queen reigning on her digital throne.
Jaehyun absent-mindedly took off his gaming headset, eyes wide with astonishment. What is this? He quickly picked up his phone, its bright screen illuminating his still confused face. The video title, "Warlord, Perfect Takedown of the Degenerate Werewolf," was clearly visible, but what stunned him were the numbers below. 6,000 views? Posted just yesterday and already so many views? Jaehyun mumbled, unable to believe his eyes. 6,000 views already? In my past life, it took me months to reach that number. Just then, a message notification flashed on the screen. He realized another thing had changed compared to the past. The sender was Romani with a short message. "Have you seen the view count yet?" Jaehyun froze for a moment. Romani contacted me first, he thought, a cryptic smile flashing across his lips. Normally, she'd never do that, wanting to maintain an air of mystery. He quickly typed a reply. "Yeah, I just saw it." Romani's message arrived instantly. She excitedly replied, "Haha, crazy, right? That's my level. Of course, it's also thanks to you for providing such high-quality raw footage."
Jaehyun stared at his phone screen, silently annoyed to see a message sending a cheesy red rose picture. I really want to block this person, he thought irritably. Probably some old gamer. It seemed Jaehyun didn't know Romani was a girl. Another message notification rang, this time from Romani. When will there be a new video? Leaning back in his specialized gaming chair, Jaehyun tiredly looked up at the ceiling. I'm wondering that too, he muttered to himself, his voice full of concern. I really don't know what to do for the next video. How can I find a monster like the desert werewolf again? But then, a spark of determination flickered in his eyes. He couldn't just lie there forever. But what can I do now? Strike while the iron's hot. Without another second of hesitation, Jaehyun reached out and pressed a start button on the console. A blue energy circle appeared, the screen displaying connecting. Blue light enveloped him as the high-tech helmet activated, his eyes also glowing with digital blue. With a confident smile, he loudly commanded, "Connect!" His entire consciousness sank into the virtual world, ready for a new adventure.
In another scene, Mathador Chev in dazzling red armor stared intently at his phone screen. On it, a video of Hyrkan fighting played repeatedly. He muttered to himself, eyes gleaming with admiration. Hyrkan of the Ha-Ho mask, huh? His movements are so impressive, no matter how many times I watch them. He narrowed his eyes, a vague sense of familiarity rising within him. But he looks strangely familiar. I wonder where I've met him before. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from the stairs behind him. A woman with fiery red hair, clad in a charming purple evening gown, descended confidently. She asked, "Who looks familiar?" Mathador turned, a slight smile on his lips as he recognized the newcomer. "Oh, Yell," he explained. "I'm talking about Hyrkan of the Ha-Ho mask. He's quite the hot topic lately." Yell sighed softly, hands on her hips with a hint of exasperation. "Him again? You watch him so much, it'd be strange as you didn't recognize him." Mathador let out an awkward chuckle, scratching his head. "Oh, I guess you're right."
But Mathador Chev was deep in thought, his eyes gleaming with admiration mixed with excitement. He murmured to himself, his voice full of enthusiasm, "This game feels as real as moving in actual life, so first-time players tend to be hesitant with every move." Yet, he was nothing like that, and the way he trained his summoned beasts, it's on a completely different level compared to other summoners. My God, I wonder what it would feel like to fight him. He probably wouldn't accept a duel invitation, would he? "Stop!" A sharp voice cut through his thoughts. Yell stepped forward, her face scowling. She grabbed Mathador's arm and pulled him away. "If you're just going to ramble on about useless things, get inside now. We're going live in 5 minutes. Pulled out of his imaginary world, Mathador startled. "Huh? That fast?" Immediately, he changed his attitude, winking and giving her a charming smile. "I'm always grateful for you, you know that, right?" Yell was unimpressed. She looked down, her voice still serious. "Then make sure you do well on today's live stream. Over 200,000 people have already bought tickets to watch it live." In a dark room, the only light came from a computer screen, where a barrage of messages was exploding in the live stream's chat channel. Amidst the excited cheers of the virtual audience, a solitary figure sat there, eyes glued to the screen. He whispered with long-awaited anticipation, "You have finally arrived."
Heavy, resolute footsteps echoed as Mathador Chev in his majestic crimson armor strode forward. Under the blinding light of the vast arena, he stood tall, his back to the neatly aligned members of the Red Bulls Guild. The aura of the guild leader and the Warlord's 9th-ranked warrior exuded immense authority. Just then, a system notification appeared, signaling an impending dungeon gate. Almost immediately, a mystical purple energy began to swirl in midair, gradually forming a colossal gate. Mathador Chev showed no hesitation. A brilliant blue halo flared, enveloping his entire body, power surging forth. As the dungeon gate stabilized, a countdown appeared before everyone. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The gate was now fully open, dark and mysterious. Facing the entrance, a confident and challenging smile spread across Mathador Chev's face. He gave a resounding command, his voice echoing through the space. "All members!"
In a chaotic space brimming with deep purple magical energy, Mathador Chev, clad in his blazing red armor, roared a sky-shattering cry, "Prepare for battle!" His sword swung up, ready for a bloodbath. Meanwhile, in a completely different place, the atmosphere was strangely peaceful. Beneath a clear blue sky, the towering building of the Figgis Castle Branch Raid Association buzzed with players coming and going. Inside the noisy main hall, Hyrkan in his dark cloak moved through the crowd, his sharp gaze constantly searching. But then a flicker of disappointment crossed his face. Not here. His disappointment quickly turned into vexation. He approached a wooden table where quests were listed and slammed his hand down in frustration. There aren't any quests here at all. Hyrkan slumped his head, his silver hair falling over the cheap quest cards. He gnashed his teeth, staring at the trivial requirements before him. Weed control, hunt 3 wolves, find a lost dog. He muttered in despair. I kind of expected this, but I can't believe there isn't a single decent quest. This damned beginner town. It looks like I'll have to stop making videos for a while.
Hyrkan was deep in thought when a warm, deep voice suddenly spoke, cutting through his reverie. I knew it! You were the adventurer who cleared the Bima mountain cave dungeon. Hyrkan startled, looking up sharply. Before him was an elderly man with silver hair and beard, a long scar on his face. His eyes gleamed with determination. Hyrkan was momentarily stunned, a sudden realization flashing in his mind. Isn't he the one from before? The calm man introduced himself, his voice carrying an indescribable weight. My name is Hotan. Do you have a moment? Hyrkan followed the man into a private room, the faint yellow light from the wall lamps casting shadows on the wooden floor. Hotan stood with his hands clasped behind his back, facing away from Hyrkan, and got straight to the point. I've heard everything. You found a mutated creature in the Bima mountain cave. Hyrkan furrowed his brow, his heart full of doubt. What? I don't recall any such quest, he thought, then hesitantly replied. I did see a werewolf with strange eyes.
Hotan's expression became thoughtful, and he murmured as if confirming something. Just as I thought. He turned to Hyrkan, his gaze serious, his voice deepening. It's highly likely you encountered a monster infected by the power of the Fallen One. The Fallen One? Hyrkan subtly furrowed his brow. The name was entirely new to him. Hotan continued to explain, his tone full of concern. In Hyrkan's mind, the old man's words conjured the image of a cloaked figure standing amidst swirling torrents of dark reddish-purple energy. Surrounding that figure were ferocious monsters, bearing sharp fangs, their eyes burning with rage. We haven't precisely identified who they are, Hotan said, stroking his silver beard. But one thing is certain, their power is driving monsters insane, and many people have become victims. That's why the Raid Association has offered a reward for... Hotan's words were abruptly cut short. Crack! Hyrkan suddenly grabbed his hand, squeezing it with unexpected force. With strangely glowing eyes and a face full of fervent determination, Hyrkan earnestly said, I want to devote all my strength to helping capture that bastard. Lovely? No, evil one. Hotan was completely bewildered by the young man's excessive reaction, only managing to blurt out, huh? Meanwhile, Hyrkan's inner self was roaring with delight. It's a hidden quest!
Hyrkan held Hotan's hand tightly, a look of concern clear on his face. Hotan said, I think it's too early for you to confront, but Hyrkan interrupted him, his bright blue eyes glowing with unshakable confidence. I'll be fine, he asserted, gently squeezing the elder's hand with sincere gratitude. Thank you, sir. Seeing the burning determination in the young man's eyes, Hotan chuckled softly, seemingly convinced. Haha, if that's the case, I'll give you a chance, depending on your performance. There's a person named Ahimbri at Bangsu Castle, east of Figus Castle. He'll be able to teach you, and I'll write you a letter of recommendation. Hyrkan's eyes twitched slightly upon hearing the familiar name. Almost immediately, a notification sound chimed, and a blue quest window appeared before him. The new quest, Ahimbri's Teachings, required him to find Ahimbri and deliver the recently received letter of recommendation. The reward was a skill book. Hyrkan's entire body began to tremble violently. He clenched his teeth, trying to suppress the immense joy that was about to burst forth. Yes! Stepping out into the wide, stone-paved courtyard, Hyrkan could no longer contain himself. He raised his fist to the sky and let out a triumphant shout, celebrating the precious opportunity he had just gained.
A radiant, almost wild smile spread across Hyrkan's lips as he looked up from his conversation with Hotan. Is this real? He silently cheered in his heart. Did I truly just receive a quest to become Ahimbri's disciple? In Hyrkan's mind, the image of a legendary figure appeared. Ahimbri, one of the 7 disciples of the great archmage Boken, an NPC every mage in this game yearned to meet, for he was the one who provided the rarest skill books. Hyrkan almost couldn't contain his excitement, covering his mouth to stifle a laugh as he envisioned those priceless treasures. He thought thought to himself. In other words, he's an extremely important NPC. Perhaps I got this golden opportunity because my Rising Star title resonated with the Fallen Count main quest. If I do well, from now on, I'll never have to worry about lacking material for videos again. His heart swelled with exhilaration. But then, while running at full speed, he suddenly stopped short. Wait a minute. Hyrkan's lips curled into a faint smirk, his eyes glinting with cunning. I almost forgot. Before doing this, there are a few things I need to take care of first. A light breeze swept through, rustling the lush green leaves on the branches, as if signaling an impending action.
In the silent forest, Hyrkan stood alone in the clearing, a smug, cold smile twisting subtly on his lips. He softly called the item's name, Bone Shard. Instantly, a mystical blue energy surged, swirling and converging, quickly forming a bone warrior that appeared before him. Looking at his creation, Hyrkan mused, I haven't checked the rewards from the previous battle yet. First, I'll use the werewolf skull that I've kept. As soon as he finished speaking, a translucent blue energy wolf skull materialized in his palm, radiating a powerful aura. A system notification appeared before him, presenting an option. Do you want to use Werewolf Skull to enhance the Bone Warrior? Without a moment's hesitation, Hyrkan simply replied, yes. Instantly, the wolf skull flew towards the Bone Warrior, merging into its head in a blinding blue light. Another notification appeared, confirming the enhancement's success. Bone Warrior has gained werewolf characteristics, durability +2.
In the dim space, Hyrkan smiled contentedly as he held up a necklace with a dark gemstone pendant. Now, necklace of the fallen chaser, he murmured softly, then decisively commanded, Eclipse. Instantly, the necklace around his neck flashed brightly, and a surge of new power spread throughout his body. A series of system messages appeared, confirming the item's effects were activated, significantly increasing all his stats, especially those related to his character class. Hyrkan nodded slightly, whispering with satisfaction, Excellent. All preparations are complete. Suddenly, one of his skeletal warriors appeared right beside him, tilting its bald head in confusion, seemingly wanting to attract its master's attention. Hyrkan turned, his eyes briefly surprised, then quickly shifting to understanding. He looked down at his palm and muttered, Bone shards. There, skull-shaped fragments of matter were emitting an eerie blue aura. A cold smile reappeared on Hyrkan's lips as he channeled energy into his hand. The skull fragments instantly transformed into spectral energy spheres, hissing in the air and shooting off at terrifying speed.
Two large warrior skeletons exuding a powerful aura gradually materialized from the void, their eye sockets glowing with cold blue light. Skeleton gazed up in astonishment at its two newfound kin, confusion clearly visible in its own luminous eye sockets. It immediately turned to Hyrkan, looking utterly bewildered, its two bony hands raised as if in question. Hyrkan commanded, From now on, the three of you will fight as one team. Get along with each other. Upon hearing the harsh declaration, Skeleton froze. It clutched its skull, gaped its mouth, and let out a desperate cry of, No! However, Hyrkan completely ignored his subordinate's tragic display. He coolly turned away, his sharp gaze already scanning the surrounding landscape, his mind fully focused on the task at hand. What kind of monsters are in this area now? He murmured, leaving the suffering skeleton behind. In the gloomy forest, a furious roar echoed, shaking the ground. The level 25 forest bear, with fiery eyes and a jaw bristling with sharp fangs, unleashed its rage upon the intruder who dared to trespass its territory. Yet, facing the fierce monster, Hyrkan showed no hesitation. He swiftly dodged the bear's deadly attacks. It roared earth-shatteringly, swinging its colossal paw, as large as a boulder, directly down onto Hyrkan's position. The strike carried terrifying power, seemingly capable of crushing everything. The monster's speed was faster than anticipated. Unable to completely dodge, Hyrkan could only raise his arm instinctively. Ah!
Hyrkan slightly tugged his hood, a sharp smile on his face, and snapped his fingers. It's Lord. Now then, At his command, a skeleton warrior, its entire body emanating a blue magical aura, swooped down from above, its sharp sword in hand aimed directly at the giant moss-covered rock bear monster. However, the monster reacted faster than expected. Suddenly, it unleashed a sky-shattering backhand strike. The powerful attack struck squarely in the skeleton warrior's chest, shattering its bones into pieces and sending them flying instantly. Witnessing the scene, Hyrkan clutched his head, his face showing clear annoyance. He snapped, "Did you really think such a predictable attack would work? You must attack from its blind spot. Next one." Immediately, another skeleton warrior darted out from the flank, moving swiftly, aiming directly for the monster's hind leg, precisely as Hyrkan had instructed.
A skeleton warrior shot into the air, raising its longsword high. Its target was the monstrous moss-covered bear standing majestically below. But the monster was not an easy target. It let out an earth-shattering roar. The terrifying moment of impact occurred, and the white-boned warrior was smashed to pieces. Fractured bones scattered across the ground. "Hey!" Hyrkan roared, his face contorted with anger as he witnessed the familiar sight of defeat. His fury erupted. "I told you to attack from its blind spot. Why did you do the exact same thing as the last one? Ugh, this is infuriating to death." Immediately, a new skeleton warrior appeared. Unlike its ill-fated predecessors, this skeleton stood proudly confident, one hand on its hip, the other gripping its sword, exuding a flashy readiness for battle.
Hyrkan's face suddenly flushed red, his eyes wide with astonishment at the scene unfolding. He stammered in utter confusion. "Huh? That guy?" Amidst the chaotic space, one of his skeleton warriors suddenly radiated a brilliant blue energy. It shot up into the air like an arrow, soaring past the giant monster's head. Hyrkan stood frozen, an unbelievable thought flashing through his mind. "No way!" With a sharp and decisive sword stroke, it plunged straight into the bear with a fatal blow. But the skeleton was slapped by the bear, sending its head flying. Hyrkan felt an uncontrollable rage surging within him. He ran his hands through his white hair, his face contorted in anger. He roared, his furious scream echoing throughout the forest. "You stupid idiots!"
In the quiet expanse of the forest, the skeleton warriors stood motionless, their eye sockets glowing with flickering blue light. Ugh! Hyrkan let out a frustrated sigh, his sharp gaze sweeping over the three skeletons awkwardly holding their own heads. Behind him, the corpse of a giant monster lay motionless on the damp ground. He snapped, "Do you even have brains? Well, I guess not. Now, it's fine. Put your heads back on." Suppressing his anger, Hyrkan began his tactical lecture. "Listen, when monsters are attacked, they will naturally turn towards the source of the attack." As he spoke, he moved, trying to demonstrate for his troops. "That's why you have to attack from their blind spots." To illustrate further, Hyrkan quickly drew a simple tactical diagram on the ground with a dry branch. What will happen if you just charge straight in from where they're looking? In response to his impassioned lecture, the three skulls simultaneously tilted to one side, looking pitifully bewildered. A strange halo of floating flowers and leaves seemed to emanate around them, signifying infinite cluelessness. "Never mind. Damn it, the more I talk, the angrier I get," Hyrkan muttered, feeling helpless against his troops' stupidity. He brought a hand up to his head, pulling his hood down to hide his tired face. He thought to himself, "It's great that my skill rank has increased, and now I can summon 3 skeletons thanks to the effect of the necklace of the corrupted hunter. But the problem is, they can't coordinate."
Hyrkan was deep in thought about what had happened moments before. On the ground, the white bones of 2 other skeletons lay shattered. "I told you to attack from its blind spot. Why did you do exactly what the last one did?" Although Hyrkan tried to teach them, the knowledge didn't seem to be applied intelligently. He commanded, "They've all shared what I taught the previous one. Attack! Coordinate together and attack!" However, his command was met only with confusion. All 3 skeleton warriors stood frozen, scratching their empty skull heads. They simply didn't understand. Because they had never learned how to fight together, they didn't know what to do. Hyrkan ran his hand through his hair, a strained smile contorted with anger. "Costing 3 times the mana, and they're even worse than before," he muttered in despair. Finally, a weary sigh escaped his chest. "Oh well." He straightened up, looking down at the 3 skeletons gazing up at him with empty eye sockets. He said, "I've reached level 20 as desired. I guess I can't make combat videos for now." Hyrkan turned, giving a decisive command. Get up, we'll train while we walk until we reach Bangtu Castle. With that, he started running, leading his bony army through the dense forest. The skeleton warriors immediately clattered after him. As he ran, Hyrkan couldn't help but sigh to himself, and I thought I could leave all the fighting to them while I just kicked back, just like a dark wizard should.
Hyrkan forced a wry smile, a mix of resignation. Guess I can't avoid being at the front, he thought, his eyes glinting with reluctance. He sighed, as he gazed at the blue sky through the dense forest leaves. Below, 3 skeletal warriors stood still, awaiting orders in the hazy mist. The scene moved to the Raider Guild branch, Bangsu Castle. Inside, it buzzed like a market. Adventurers packed the space. From tables to stairs, their chatter and laughter endless. Suddenly, steady footsteps echoed from the second floor, drawing the crowd's attention. The door swung open and a figure emerged, his expression cold. All eyes turned to him. A cry of astonishment erupted from below. "He's out!" Instantly, a wave of shock spread through the room, whispers turning into stunned silence as everyone stared in awe at him.
The atmosphere in the room was stifling and chaotic with frenzied screams. A crowd of players was gathering, shoving and grabbing a poor man, cornering him against the wall. "Get him! What quest did you get? Speak now!" Standing not far away, Hyrkan silently observed the chaotic scene with cold eyes. He lightly pulled down his hood, obscuring half his face. "They're no different from a pack of hyenas," he thought scornfully. "Well, I guess you find these kinds of people everywhere. They don't even try to put in their own effort, only wanting to leech off others." Suddenly, a bald man with a suspiciously ingratiating smile approached from behind, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Hey buddy," the man began, "if there's any good quest, let's—" Before the man could finish his sentence, Hyrkan seized his wrist and violently flung it away. "Get lost," he growled, the iciness in his voice making the man freeze, stammering incoherently. Hyrkan turned and strode towards the stairs. "I can't let them find out I'm doing the Ahimbri quest," he mused, pulling his hood lower and quickly disappearing downstairs.
Hyrkan calmly approached the foot of the stairs, extending a carefully red wax-sealed envelope to the guard. "I bring Hotan's letter of recommendation," he stated clearly. The guard merely glanced at the envelope, then nodded. "Confirmed. Please proceed to the second floor." As soon as Hyrkan was allowed through, the crowd behind erupted into chaos. They shoved each other, trying to bypass the barrier. "I'm with him. Let me up," someone desperately yelled. Hyrkan merely cast a cold glance over his shoulder at the chaotic scene, an indifferent thought crossing his mind. "No, you're not." His footsteps echoed steadily on the wooden stairs, leaving the noisy shouts behind. A smug smile touched Hyrkan's lips as he pondered, "I wonder what reward Ahimbri will have for me. Since it's a hidden quest, it must be good. I need to use this opportunity to build a long-term relationship with him." Finally, he reached the top of the stairs, facing a sturdy wooden door. He gently knocked, calling out with a mischievous smile, "Excuse me." Hyrkan cautiously pushed the door open slightly, peeking inside. But the sight before him made his eyes widen in astonishment, his smile instantly freezing on his face.
Inside the room, a chaotic scene caught Hyrkan's eye, making him secretly astonished. Wow, what a mess! Books were piled high, scattered across the floor, on the table, and even on the already packed bookshelves. A rustling sound came from the far end of the room. Amidst the mountain-high stacks of books, a man suddenly turned around, his expression slightly annoyed at being disturbed. With his glasses slid down his nose, he squinted at the uninvited guest. "Who are you? I don't recall having an appointment today." Hyrkan, with his familiar Haho mask, thought to himself, is Ahimbri always like this? Despite being somewhat surprised by the NPC's brusque attitude, he calmly stepped forward, offering a letter of introduction. "I am Hyrkan. I came here at the recommendation of Sir Hotan." NPC Ahimbri took the letter, adjusting his glasses to read. His gaze swept from the letter to Hyrkan, scrutinizing him. "Oh, you still look like an apprentice dark wizard. I suppose you're quite talented for your level." At the somewhat condescending compliment, Hyrkan's cheeks flushed slightly under his mask. He humbly replied, "It's just my luck." However, in his mind, he only had one practical thought. "Whatever, as long as I get the reward, it's fine." Seemingly satisfied, Ahimbri nodded. "I see. Here is the promised reward."
Ahimbri's hand emanated a mystical purple energy, condensing into 2 skill books that floated before Hyrkan. Immediately, system notification windows appeared before him. "You have received Skill Book, Bone Armor. You have received Skill Book, Madness Helm." Hyrkan was stunned as he received the two glowing books, his face beaming with boundless joy. He couldn't believe his eyes. He's giving me both, and they both look like ultra-rare items. Before he could utter a complete word of thanks, Ahimbri coldly interrupted. Our business here is concluded then. Another system notification appeared, confirming his words. Quest, Ahimbri's teachings, has been completed. In the quiet expanse of the library, amidst towering stacks of books, Ahimbri decisively turned. As he strode away, he called back, travel safely. Hyrkan's earlier joy instantly vanished, replaced by profound confusion and disappointment. He cried out in his mind, What? Why did the quest end so fast? You're supposed to give me the next quest. Wait, I didn't go through all this just to get a few skills. Realizing Ahimbri was about to leave, Hyrkan unhesitatingly rushed after him. Amidst the mountain-high stacks of books, his desperate cry echoed, Sir!
In a moment of desperation, Hyrkan rushed forward, his hand grabbing the hand of NPC Ahimbri, who stood amidst mountain-high stacks of books. His voice urgently rang out, I'll do anything, please sir, just give me a chance. Suddenly, Ahimbri's hand tightly grasped Hyrkan's as if it were the only lifeline. Standing still amidst the cluttered study, Ahimbri looked down, slowly repeating, You'll do anything? Abruptly, a bizarrely radiant smile bloomed on his face. Ahimbri's eyes widened behind his glasses. He squeezed Hyrkan's hand and exclaimed excitedly, Thank you very much! Before Hyrkan could even comprehend what was happening, a system window abruptly appeared before his eyes. Quest, egg in the nest. Bring back the egg from the nest. Reward, none. A cold current ran down Hyrkan's spine as he read the last line. He tricked me. His face stiffened, his eyes glazed over as cold sweat poured out. His mouth hung open in silence. Only the screams of regret and bitterness echoed in his mind.
The bustling atmosphere of the crowded streets suddenly quieted as a tall figure entirely enveloped in gleaming plate armor strode through. All eyes turned toward him, ceaseless whispers rising from the multitude. Wow, that equipment looks really expensive, doesn't it? A player exclaimed in astonishment, unable to hide their admiration and curiosity. Leaving the whispers and scrutinizing gazes behind, the unfamiliar player maintained a steady pace, crossing a lush green lawn. Before him stood a large building with a towering stone spire, prominent against the clear blue sky and the distant undulating mountains. He stopped, looking up at the building with a determined expression. Through the narrow slit of his helmet, his green eyes gleamed with a sharp light, reflecting an unshakable resolve. The surrounding atmosphere seemed to freeze, leaving only a tense silence. That's where the Ha-Ho mask is, he murmured to himself, his voice deep and firm. In that moment, the scene behind him seemed to ignite in the brilliant red of sunset, signaling an impending confrontation. His fist, encased in an iron gauntlet, clenched tighter, emitting a metallic creak, ready for the destined battle.
The heavy creaking sound echoed as the wooden door slowly swung open, letting a faint streak of light into the gloomy space inside. As soon as Hyrkan stepped in, the door slammed shut behind him, plunging him into the room's silence. He stood motionless on the wooden floor, his solitary shadow stretching long before him. A tear rolled down Hyrkan's cheek, though his face was mostly obscured by his hood. So, there comes a day when I get tricked by an NPC, he thought bitterly, his teeth clenched in indignation. I thought he'd give me a quest related to the main storyline, but what is this damn egg quest? Before him, the quest notification window appeared, egg in the nest prominently displayed over an image of an egg with a large question mark. The description was even more ironic. Retrieve the egg from the nest. Reward? None. Not even a reward. Hyrkan clenched his fist, a profound sense of betrayal swelling within him. He muttered in despair, Damn it, do I really have to do this? Suddenly, a deep voice echoed right next to his ear, interrupting his thoughts. Hyrkan flinched. Another player had approached him unnoticed, their face alight with sharp curiosity.
A sudden sense of unease swelled, making him realize what the start. Immediately, a throng of players with eager, greedy faces swarmed like vultures. This guy got the quest! Get him! A voice rang out, stirring the crowd. They pushed and shoved, hands reaching out to grab Hyrkan, determined not to let him escape. Pinned to the ground, Hyrkan panicked, realizing his mistake. Damn it, I forgot about these guys, he cursed under his breath. Trapped amidst the aggressive crowd, his mind reeled. What should I do? Just kill them all and get it over with? But suddenly a voice rang out, Stand back. A powerful surge of green energy suddenly exploded from Hyrkan's position, flinging all those who clung to him far away. When the shockwave passed, Hyrkan sat up amidst the chaotic scene. A strange player in full enclosed armor slowly walked towards him. He stopped, looked down at Hyrkan sitting on the ground, and calmly asked, "Do you have a moment?"
A calm, deep voice resonated from behind the tall knight's fully enclosed helmet. "I want to talk in a quiet place." Hyrkan flinched, vigilance rising within him. He frowned, spinning around to face the stranger. "Who the hell is this?" he thought, his eyes flashing with annoyance and confusion as he eyed the armor completely concealing the opponent's identity. "Get lost. Why should I?" Hyrkan snapped, but before he could finish, the knight calmly interjected, "Please cooperate, Sir Haho Mask." The name struck him like a bolt of lightning. A glint of light shone from a slit in the stranger's helmet. Hyrkan's eyes widened in astonishment, utter shock and bewilderment clearly etched across every line of his face.
They arrived at a small, deserted alley. The stranger approached, his voice muffled from behind the sealed helmet. "Sorry to bother you. I feel we won't be able to talk properly with others around." As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his wrist and pressed his war watch. His helmet vanished into shards of light, revealing a bespectacled man with hair seemingly made of digital data. Hyrkan was stunned for a moment, cold sweat breaking out. He internally assessed, "Looking at this equipment, he must be at least a ranker, but I have no memory of this person at all. Who is he, and how does he know who I am?" As if reading Hyrkan's thoughts, the stranger subtly pushed up his glasses, his sharp gaze fixed directly on Hyrkan as he asked, "You are Haho Mask, aren't you?" A thought suddenly flashed through Hyrkan's mind. In situations like these,
In the deserted stone-paved alley, Hyrkan decided he had to act as if he knew nothing. He faced the man in glasses, his tone provocatively naive. "Who is this haughty mask you're talking about? I followed you out here because you wanted to talk, but what the hell is a haughty mask?" The strange player was stunned for a moment, seemingly not expecting this reaction. He tremblingly raised a hand to his chin, trying to regain his composure. Didn't you get the quest just now from an NPC named Ahimbri?" Hyrkan's attitude immediately turned aggressive. He lunged forward, growling with extreme anger. "Who the hell are you, and why should I share information with you? Just dragging me out here is enough to drive me crazy. Are you looking for trouble? Then bet your whole account and kill me." Despite appearing furious, Hyrkan was incredibly calm deep down. "I don't know who he is, but all I need to do is pretend not to know." His eyes were sharp, silently challenging his opponent. "What's your next move?" Faced with Hyrkan's rage, the strange player remained silent, his glasses glinting in the dim light, his expression inscrutable.
Suddenly, he extended his hand and said, "It seems I've made a mistake. I apologize." A cold, sneering smile flickered across Hyrkan's lips. Their handshake in the sunlight seemed to mark the end of the unexpected clash. However, the moment he released the handshake and turned to leave, Hyrkan uttered a defiant, sarcastic remark. "Huh, scared are we? I'll let you off this time. Just another pathetic bastard looking for trouble." With that, he turned his back and walked away, waving dismissively without looking back. The armored player stood silently, watching Hyrkan's disappearing back with a thoughtful gaze. A figure with dark purple hair and mysteriously glowing eyes appeared beside him. The armored player mused. "I don't think that was him. Or was it? One thing's for sure, he's not a skilled player."
His metal-clad hand slowly clenched. If you've played Warlord for a while, you should know well not to carelessly swing your arm when wearing a war watch. His expression hardened, eyes flashing with sternness behind his glasses, jaw clenched as he emphasized the danger of reckless action. Standing beside him, a hooded figure let out a tired sigh, raising a hand to cover their face, questioning, "Do we really need to continue guarding around Ahimbri? The Fallen Count mission is almost over. Even if someone discovers us now, what could they do?" In response to that impatience, the man with glasses turned his head, his gaze sharp, and he sternly adjusted his frames. "The egg in the nest mission is the main objective," he emphasized, his tone resolute. "We shouldn't take unnecessary risks." With a grumble of dissatisfaction, the cloaked figure reluctantly accepted. Well then, I'm returning to my post." As soon as they finished speaking, the person transformed into a stream of shadows, shooting away. The man with glasses called out, "See you later," then turned and walked towards the building. The door swung open with a blinding flash of light welcoming him inside.
Hidden in the shadows of a log cabin, Hyrkan cautiously peeked through the window crack. His eyes gleamed with surprise. 2 of them, he thought to himself, his mind quickly analyzing the situation. They must belong to some organization, as they're acting together. But if they were from a common guild, they would have negotiated after revealing their identities. Daring to challenge me like this, they're certainly no ordinary individuals. The image of a man in gleaming armor and a mysterious hooded girl standing back to back, exuding a formidable aura. Even though he had left that place, their images still lingered in his mind, a big unanswered question. Ultimately, who exactly were they? Now, under the warm sunlight of a lush green forest, the clang of metal echoed as Hyrkan's 2 skeleton warriors diligently trained. He sat on a tree stump, elbows resting on his knees, hands supporting his chin in a pensive posture. His gaze was distant, clearly still preoccupied by that mysterious encounter. Nevertheless, one thing is certain.
Hyrkan's eyes narrowed, suspicion creeping into his mind. There was something unusual about the nest egg quest he had just received. He began piecing together the events. They must have seen my video, he thought to himself, the image of his perfect fight with the corrupted werewolf surfacing in his mind. That was the only way they could know that Hahoe Mask would accept the quest from Ahimbri. The fact that they let him leave so easily could only mean one thing. They didn't care who was behind the mask. Hyrkan plopped down on a rock in the middle of the dense forest, the humid air surrounding him. He propped his chin on his hand, his face full of troubled thoughts. I don't know what the hell is going on with this quest, but if I keep going like this, I'm sure to run into them again. If I want to avoid them, I can't upload videos for a while either. He let out a deep, heavy sigh. His face contorted into a frantic and irritated expression, a tear of resentment almost welling up. Why do these crazy people keep ruining my life like this? That woman alone, Chae Sel-yeon, is already giving me enough headaches. At the same time, elsewhere, inside a cold metallic pod, a faint bzzz sound echoed. Chae Sel-yeon, the woman with long black hair, sat silently with vacant eyes.
In the luxurious room, Park Soo-ji hurried to the high-tech pod where Chae Sel-yeon was seated, a bottle of cool water in hand. With a somewhat worried expression, she asked, "Madam, you've worked hard. How was the guild entrance exam?" Chae Sel-yeon took the water bottle, her eyes showing clear fatigue and disappointment. She replied coldly, "Just a bunch of trash. How can none of them be useful?" Saying so, she took a long gulp, irritation evident on her face. Park Soo-ji paled, forcing a strained smile. "Is that so? That's terrifying." To ease the tense atmosphere, Park Soo-ji awkwardly clasped her hands together, quickly changing the subject. "By the way, any new news from Hahoe Mask that I mentioned last time? Oh, the one who uploaded that video?" Hearing this, Chae Sel-yeon froze, her voice deepened, carrying a deadly chill. It seems they've joined another guild, as there's still no reply. Crack. Another guild? Chae Sel-yeon's hand clenched tightly, the plastic water bottle crushed in her rage. A crimson aura of killing intent enveloped her, her eyes bulging, teeth grinding. Witnessing the scene, Park Soo-ji could only silently scream a voiceless cry.
Park Soo-ji frantically bowed her head, her voice stuttering with panic. No, that's not it. I'll go check again right away." From behind, Chae Sel-yeon's cold voice rang out, decisive and full of authority. "When you have concrete information, come back." Before that, as Park Soo-ji stood reporting, Chae Sel-yeon's long, slender fingers gracefully changed clothes. She calmly asked, "What did the chairman say?" Facing her, Park Soo-ji bowed deeply, sweat beading on her forehead, her voice trembling. "No, he hasn't said anything yet." Chae Sel-yeon subtly curled her lips into a smile, a confident and slightly mocking one. She slowly stood up, the click of her heels resounding sharply on the floor. Casually unbuttoning her cuff, she spoke in a calm yet sharp tone. "He's silent because Warlord is too successful. The first time I told him about playing this game, he tried to force me into an arranged marriage." Her eyes glanced over her shoulder, full of pride and defiance, as if looking back at a past she now completely controlled.
Park Soo-ji stood dumbfounded, her cheeks flushed as she admired the perfect figure before her, unable to help but marvel inwardly. Whoa, her physique! However, that moment was quickly shattered by a cold, authoritative voice. Chae Sel-yeon commanded, "Recruit a new group of candidates and report back to me before tomorrow morning." Pulled back to reality, Park Soo-ji flinched, her eyes wide with dismay. Tomorrow morning? That's too sudden," she stammered in desperate protest. As soon as the magnificent door closed, she finally dared to let out a sigh, muttering with annoyance, What an awful personality." At the same time, in the virtual world of Warlord, the stagnant moss-green water of a gloomy swamp rippled. Hyrkan's sharp eyes swept over the damp, dark scenery. It's been a while since I've been back to this place, lizard swamp, he thought to himself, pulling his hood deeper to conceal his angular face. A Himbri is currently at Bangsu Castle, so the quest must be around this area. Since the quest involves finding an egg, his face lit up with intense focus, ready for the upcoming search.
After careful consideration, Hyrkan determined his prey must be a bird, reptile, or insect-type monster, and when narrowing his search to locations suitable for his current level, only one place came to his mind: Lizard Swamp. The air here was thick with the smell of mud and rotting plants. Hyrkan stood amidst the gloomy scenery, surrounded by giant, winding tree roots rising from the stagnant greenish water. "Skeleton, come here," Hyrkan called. Instantly, a skeletal warrior appeared beside him. Looking at his companion, Hyrkan spoke. "The monsters here are very high level, so perhaps I should use the enhancement skill I learned last time." A skill window appeared before him, displaying information about Mad Hat. The instructions were simple: draw an engraving on the target's head and chant to activate it. Hyrkan muttered to himself, "Need to draw the engraving, then chant. All right." His gaze sharpened, filled with concentration. He placed his hand on the smooth skull of the skeletal warrior, his voice deepening as he began to chant, "Hat up." Instantly, a blazing red magical symbol erupted on Skeleton's skull. Its two empty eye sockets flared with eerie, fierce red flames. A surge of blood-colored energy violently burst from the skeleton's body, so powerful it astonished Hyrkan.
In the dense forest, a surge of crimson magic violently swirled, engulfing the skeleton warrior. With eyes gleaming with madness and delight, Hyrkan bent down, observing his handiwork. He exclaimed excitedly, "This is amazing! Does it even have horns now?" The dry skeleton had now completely transformed. Its entire body radiated a dark aura intertwined with mesmerizing red hues. An ancient glowing symbol on its forehead attested to the magic just cast. Standing upright, Hyrkan took a few steps back, facing the creature he had just empowered. Despite the system notification about Helm of Madness appearing, warning that the summoned creature might lose its sanity, Hyrkan's smile only grew colder. He spread his arms, boldly commanding with a challenging tone, "All right, time to test it. Come on, attack me." A dull thud echoed, signaling that an attack was